Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
With us today also is Philzfacts.
Buh.
Phil, you could find all of Phil's social media, his Twitter page in the link in the description below. That's where you'll be able to find his podcast as well. But Phil, welcome on the show.
Thank you for having me, guys.
You can also find Phil in your local drugstore. It's the no-dose section. They have his picture on the bottle. Just kidding, Phil.
Today is first day of free agency in the NHL. Yikes. Yikes. I'll put out this little precursor to the podcast as well. We will not be able to read all the comments. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments already pouring in today. I'll read them over afterwards, right? And I'll make sure to bring up hopefully some salient points going forward. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the pieces that fell in the NHL. You know, what free agents went where, who are guys that we would have liked to see possibly find their way to the Islanders. We'll look at possibly mistakes the Islanders made today. Possible mistakes the Islanders made today. And we'll also look at what type of path forward that the Islanders have. So that's what we'll kind of be talking about. If you're new to the show, welcome. This is a twice a week Islanders podcast that happens every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're new to the show, make sure you stick around a while. We invite you to subscribe on YouTube, to like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter. You can also find our second podcast called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. That is in the link in the description below. Also, it's a featured page on our YouTube channel. We go live every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On that podcast, we talk all things sports. NHL, NBA, NFL, college athletics, MLB, European soccer, anything athletics, we talk. And also fan fights. I would say, Grumpy, that's a listener and viewer favorite.
It's true. We don't do women's athletics, though.
We occasionally do.
Yeah, but that's really not athletics.
Okay. Good gracious, Grumpy. Grumpy's already. I don't know if Grumpy's a little extra testy today.
Fighting for him.
But the Islanders' first day of free agency, as of 8:20 Eastern Standard Time, have not made any moves.
So, in other words, it's just a regular Islander free agency day. We never do anything in free agency ever. Every year we do the rosterbation podcast. How we'd love this to happen, and you know what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You want to know what happened today? Less than nothing. There are some comments. I happen to glance over the comments. There's a lot of "F you, Lou," "Die, Lou." So there's a lot of those. So maybe you just pull up one and just say, well, that covers like 70 different comments. You could just bring up just one every once in a while, just so people know we are feeling their pain.
Good gracious.
Well, Austin Zarnik signed with Detroit. That's the closest thing to Islanders activity that happened today. That's it. We lost Austin Zarnik.
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
It's funny because everyone knows we didn't get Johnny Gaudreau. We knew we weren't getting
Hold
Johnny
on,
Gaudreau.
Grumpy, this is the first time people are hearing that. We did not get Johnny Gaudreau. If you haven't had a chance to check your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram in the last 30 minutes, we didn't get Johnny Gaudreau. He went to Columbus and took a cheap sweetheart deal to go to Columbus. The Columbus Blue Jackets.
Columbus, Ohio. Here's the thing. I've been watching The Boys. It's that Amazon Prime TV show. And a guy got banished. For anyone who doesn't know, it's really entertaining. I think it is. It's like where they have a group of 7 superheroes and they all have different, superhero sets. And one guy, he gets banished to Columbus, Ohio. Oof. And he never comes back. That's what it's like. We lost to a team is like the banishment of the NHL. Columbus. And here's the thing. You listen to Elliot Friedman, and it's like, oh, the Devils and the Islanders are in. I'm like, okay, the Islanders are not in on it. They're not. You see the same tweets we've seen for years and years. Chris Botta put one out today. Hey, heard from two sources. The Islanders, regardless of what happens, are really in on this. Every single year, we're supposedly in on every big name free agent. And do you want to know what we get? Doongots on a stick. Absolutely freaking nothing. No one is ever going to sign for this team as an unrestricted free agent. Just not happening. We have to force players to come and play for us. Force them forcibly, and then you got to pay them billions of dollars just to get them to stay. No one wants to play here for the New York Islanders. I'm sorry, fans.
Oh, man.
Name someone who wants to play here. You want to play here? Average Anders Lee, Croc Nelson, Josh Bailey, all the other pieces. We had to overpay Casey freaking Cizikas 6 years for an always injured fourth line center, 6 years at the age of 30. That's the guy we have to sign back. Zach Parise. Who wants to come here? Guys whose careers are over. I'm going to draw a comparison. If you ever look at European soccer, that's where the greatest soccer in the world is. When the players can't play there anymore, they come to the United States. In the NHL, when you can't play anymore, you want to go to the Islanders just to get that last payday. That's all they're looking for when they come here.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning this. And Grumpy, I feel like you're going to have a few of those type of moments that earn you your name as a grumpy old man today. But every single offseason is the same. It's funny for the fans as well as it seems like for the organization. We start off at a time period where we have obviously high aspirations and we play general manager on our heads. Phil does a very good job of it. He picks things out. He puts it up there with nice graphics on cap space. He's got it all on the social media, all of like how everything could fall correctly and good ideology on it. And as players start to fall off the board, you fall in either one or two camps. You fall on the, oh, well, now that player's gone, I really don't think he fits into our system. I really don't think he fits too well for us. We're going to pay him too much, and we're going to have to play Matt Barzal, and we're going to have to pay Sorokin. So we're probably going to be in a cap crunch if we were to sign Johnny Gaudreau. So I'm actually happy we don't have him on the contract. And then you have the people that start getting closer and closer to slamming the freaking panic button. That's one of the people I am. I'm ready to hit the panic button because as you start to see all of these free agents that, I mean, there was a plethora of talented forwards, whether it be as centers or wingers that were out there in unrestricted free agency this year. You should have had not only option A available, but you had really, really competent option B, C, and D out there. And as of right now, it looks like we're on none of these options, Phil.
Oh, well, put it this way. If option B is out there in UFA, you're not going to like it. It's going to be, I mean, who's left? It's going to be too much money and too much term for Palat. It'll be too much money and too much term for Ryan Strome. I don't even want to know what it's going to be.
Nazem Kadri.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Tell me that doesn't fit. Tell me that doesn't fit Lou's MO on a long-term contract.
Nah, probably not.
He doesn't fit on this team.
No. I don't think from a salary standpoint, it doesn't fit. I don't see why a kid from Toronto would want to come to Long Island for 6 or 7 years. What's the appeal? Maybe he'll go to Calgary, right? I think he could probably fit there. I don't see why he would fit with the Islanders or want to come to the Islanders, and that would be a disastrous contract to start at the age of 32. I tweeted this out yesterday, and I was arguing with people. I said, I don't think, considering what's available, aside from the fact that Johnny Gaudreau is not coming, I don't think the amount of money it would take to get him makes sense versus being able to, once you're clearing all that space, there are probably 3 other things that you could do with that cap money that make more sense, right? Stack up what the Islanders with Johnny Gaudreau would have looked like, taking away a couple pieces in order to make the cap figure work, and then ask yourself, is this team better than Calgary last year or worse? Significantly
Calgary
worse.
Or Colorado.
Calgary.
Oh.
Johnny Gaudreau with Calgary last year, and now picture Johnny Gaudreau with the Islanders minus Beauvillier and minus Bailey, let's call it. Those are the 2 pieces you're taking out to fit him in. I think it's night and day. That Calgary team was way more stacked, way more deep. To me, it just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for this to be the move, and especially considering he wasn't coming here, there were probably, once you were going to make that space, if you were going to make that space, go get Perron, go get Mikheyev, go get Kulak. There were a lot of really good players, and you could have gotten a combination of really good players that fit needs and would have fit well. Go get Pacioretty for free.
You still have to move guys off the roster.
But that was clearly what the intention was. If they were bidding money for Gaudreau, then I imagine that they had a pretty good idea as to what the two corresponding moves to that were going to be.
I don't think they were even in on Gaudreau. I think they throw that out there so the fan base says, oh, look, they tried for Gaudreau. We've seen that before. Garth Snow
Never
did
being in on Kovalchuk back in the day. I remember that one too.
We're always in on everyone. We never get anyone. We're not in on anyone. We're not in on anyone. We want, hey, we'll make you this offer, but it's just for PR.
That leads me to a few different questions. We talk about how
can I just say one thing? You want to know what the issue is? We overvalue, our management team overvalues our own players. That's the biggest issue with this team.
They can only sign their own players. I think that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is they've proven the only time they've ever been able to get talent is when they either draft it or trade for it and retain it.
And they always have to overpay to retain their own talent.
Not
I don't
always.
know what the hell's going on.
Well, that was about to be a question I was going to ask. We have heard every excuse under the sun as to why the Islanders are unable and incapable of bringing in a big name free agent, right? And every free agent's different. It's not like I'm just going to paint it with a broad brush and say, oh, all of these are the same. That's why it didn't work out. But we had heard, oh, well, it's because of the Coliseum. It's a dump. Nobody wants to play for the Coliseum. And then it was nobody wants to play in Barclays in a Coliseum where you bounce around like that. The practice facilities weren't good. Oh, we don't have a legitimate ownership group. We don't have a legitimate general manager. We don't have a legitimate head coach. We're looked at as a laughing stock in the league. We've seen every single one of these excuses rattled off year after year after year. I'd argue that Columbus, who just went ahead and got Johnny Gaudreau.
Freaking Columbus.
Columbus, exactly. Not a very successful franchise. I wouldn't necessarily say practice facilities, arenas, top-notch, state-of-the-art like UBS is currently. And I'd say if you look at them, right, they're in a rebuilding process. I can't tell you the last time they've been successful or won more than two postseason series in a row. I wouldn't put them at the pinnacle and at the peak where a free agent would say, oh, wow, they're checking every box in that category. And I think to myself, I'm like, what is the excuse now as to why the Islanders are incapable and unable to sign a big-name free agent?
I think the biggest excuse now is that they only can give them half-price concessions at UBS Arena. Because, the prices are astronomical and, you got to take a second mortgage out on your house, to go to wherever, to get a Shack burger or whatever the hell it is.
He didn't want to come here.
That's right. That's 100% right. He did not want to come.
Why he didn't want to come here is a different, who knows? There's something about Columbus he wanted. He left $15.5 million on the table with a Calgary team that could compete. If they still had him, they could be very competitive. Kachuk had 104 points on his line. Lindholm was a point per game. Didn't he win, or he was runner-up for the Selke this year or something like that? They had good defense. They had a good goaltender, a Vezina finalist. Yeah, he had a bad series against Edmonton, but he left $15.5 million on the table. And the Devils, who have $23 million in cap space right now, I am sure that they were competitive for him. I have no doubt that they were. They've got Jack Hughes. I'm sorry?
He didn't want to go there.
He didn't want to go there. And if he didn't want to go to the Devils and didn't want to go to the Islanders, I don't know what you're supposed to do about that other than make contingencies in place of a guy who clearly didn't want to be here.
We have
Elliot Friedman on NHL Network today said that his agent called Columbus to see if there was any interest in him. That should have told you all you needed to know right there. That regardless of the Islanders and New Jersey, he didn't want to go to either one of those spots, period. Just did not want to go there.
The only excuse I've seen
who the hell calls Columbus? Who calls Columbus to say, is there any interest in me? Columbus.
In a different galaxy, in a different timeline, Grump. Maybe Columbus is it's the Detroit Red Wings of past. But yeah, Columbus, you're right. It's an odd one. I've seen this too. We started to see now this excuse started to rear its head probably about a few months ago, people were talking about as free agency was getting up there, could the NHL adopt a salary cap to where they also took into account state taxes so that they could make it more fair and equitable? What's the difference between the state taxes in different areas? So that's going to be the new item that people trumpet and kind of, go ahead and parade around. And the only thing I have to say to that is this. You may have lower state taxes in Ohio than you. What, Grumpy?
Live in a better state where the taxes aren't so high.
You may, I'm going to get back to my point though. You may have higher taxes in New York than Ohio, but what's your chances of being an icon or getting yourself on advertisements and items like that in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, as compared to it in New York? There's more opportunity to extend your brand, to continue to make money as well through endorsement deals, etc. When you play in New York, you play in a big market area as opposed to playing for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, I don't think it necessarily has, because you're right. They left over 15 million. I have no idea what the tax rate is in the province out
it's
there.
High, but he's American, so there's different ways Americans could.
I was about to say, I'm not sure how that works when you're dual citizen or how that. I couldn't tell you. I'm not a tax guy, but very interested to see what the new excuse is. I feel like that's going to be trumpeted around a bit, but in my opinion, there are no excuses, and I think the points that both you guys have brought up were correct. Johnny Gaudreau was never going to sign here. I was very, very, very cautious. I never wanted to get my hopes up, no matter what the Islanders media was putting out. I never wanted to get my hopes up. Phil was pessimistic from the start, and he was very, very astute there, and so was Grump, and even myself to a bit, But why were we not executing a plan B or C? We should have known immediately that Johnny Gaudreau was not interested, not looking to take the offer. That's when we had to implement plan B or plan C.
Because when you have dementia, you can only remember A, and then you forget where you are, and that's it.
Should never have been A. This should never have been A.
Well,
B should have been A.
You mentioned about plan B, right? Now, this is something that Phil was adamant about on Twitter. And I'll be honest, for David Perron, I really was shocked the term and the cap hit of the deal he got. When Phil said, I'd be happy with him on a 2-year deal. He's 34 years old now. I realistically thought he was going to be looking for a 3 or 4 year deal, looking for $5.5 million. But David Perron at a 2-year deal, $4.75 million a year. That is a sweetheart deal for the Detroit Red Wings. It's not like the Red Wings are competing for the cup or close to competing for the cup, but they make these meaningful moves. And maybe you could go ahead and get him even a little cheaper than that in New York because, hey, we're closer to a cup competitor. Maybe that's a little bit of an appealing portion there for David Perron. But 2 years, $4.75 million for a guy who puts up close to a point a game.
I do want Phil to talk exclusively about David Perron because I know he was hot for him. But honestly, do you think if he came to the Islanders, do you think it was a 2-year deal for that? Nope. I'm going to say it was probably 4 year. I would say maybe 4 and make it 5.5 per.
I was thinking along the lines of what he did with Marleau, although he's young. He's 3 years younger than Marleau was when he did that deal. I thought it would look similar to Giroux. I had Giroux at 3 at 6.25. He ended up signing 3 6.5. I was thinking for Perron, it would probably be at about the 3 in the 5.75 to 6 neighborhood. And I would have been fine with the extra year because we would have gotten a high impact forward who is one of the best power play players in the league. I mean, David Perron is what you hope Oliver Wahlstrom grows up to be. A right shot player who's ridiculous on the power play, generates a ton of offense, and is just, a solid two-way player. That's who I felt they could have used. 4.75 for 2 years. I see zero downside to this deal for Detroit. This is such a good deal. And Detroit made a lot of good deals today. I thought the Andrew Kopp deal was good. A rare situation of where a Ranger player decides that he wants to leave New York in order to go home. Common theme today. You had Giroux going back to Ottawa where he has a home and where he spends his summers because his wife is from there. I know they got Sherratt. They got Mata. They got Kubalik, who's an interesting player who, if he gets back to the form he was in his rookie season, is going to be a really nice deal for Detroit. They did a lot of good things today. Good for Steve.
Stevie Y knows how to build the team. Yeah, I think you're right on that one. And you mentioned, right, Giroux was one of those guys that we had roster baited about before, but it was pretty much known ahead of time, right? He was going to Ottawa. There were Burakovsky. I know that's, or I'm sorry, I know that Phil's not a big fan.
No, I'm not a fan.
I
don't think Gruppy's a huge fan of Burakovsky either.
I'm just saying there were options, and right now I think Burakovsky's a better option than other free agents based off of what you're going to have to pay at the moment.
Again, but is Burakovsky the kind of guy that you either trade Beauvillier or pay someone to take Bailey off your team in order to fit at $5.5 million for 5 years? No,
not for me.
No.
I've always been a firm believer of we needed to move multiple people off of this roster in order to free up the space to add. I would have been happy even if you're adding middle six guys. If you added 2 legitimate middle six forwards that maybe if things fall right, they're guys who are second line wingers, I think that it improves your team in a serious manner. Now, this is something we were talking about before the podcast. We asked, who is to blame? Now, Phil, you had an interesting point on this, and I wanted you to go ahead and bring that up as to who is to blame, right? We may all say it's Lou, maybe it's a little bit of management, but Phil, I wanted you to bring up those points you've got.
I mean, I think first and foremost is Lou. He's the general manager. He's the person who's ultimately in charge of the decisions here. But I think at a certain point, ownership needs to take some of the blame as well. They run the show ultimately. It's their business. It's their company. It's their team. They meddled in the Tavares situation, and that led us to getting absolutely nothing. They tied Garceau's hands. They liked everything that the agent was saying. The agent was in the press box during the games. They screwed up on Tavares badly. We got left holding the bag when Panarin turned us down, turned more money down to go to the Rangers. And now I would have to imagine that part of what was driving this decision to pursue Johnny Gaudreau is ownership's desire to sell corporate suites and season tickets and get a return on the investment. They're paying a lot of money for the arena. There's a lot of financing with not only the arena, I think they're on the hook for a certain portion of the train station that was built in order to get there. So there is a lot of expenses that they need to recoup over a certain amount of time, and Johnny Gaudreau helps with that. I think at a certain point, some of the blame needs to be shared by ownership for either encouraging or at the very least enabling this to happen yet again.
I'm surprised they didn't. If they really wanted him, why not throw 10.5 at him a year?
He turned down 10.5 for 8 years.
Well, but I'm saying if you really want, we don't know what they offered.
Calgary offered 10.5 over 8.
Yeah. I'm just surprised. I just don't know why they didn't. It just seemed like, did they really want him, or did they just want the appearance that they wanted him?
I think they wanted him. I think ownership would have loved having him. It would have sold a lot of suites. It would have sold a lot more season tickets. The fans would have loved it. It might have been that, listen, for all you know, like Calgary, they could have just won 5 playoff games next year with him. And ownership still would have loved it, and fans would have loved it because it's fun, it's exciting, it's fresh. We finally got the guy. The Rangers had no cap space this year. They were stuck going for a B option as their 2 center. They didn't even get their first option. How exciting. They missed out on Andrew Kopp, who they blew tons of assets for at the trade deadline, probably thinking that they'd be able to maintain him. And we got Johnny Gaudreau. They would have loved that.
They knew we weren't getting Johnny Gaudreau.
I think, listen, ego comes into play at a certain point. They built this brand new facility. You don't think in the back of their mind or at the forefront of their mind, they were thinking, who's not going to want to play here? We just invested X billions of dollars. How could someone not want to play at my brand new arena just 20 minutes from Manhattan? I'm not the little brother anymore.
I think for me, the worst thing as an owner is when you're trying to sell your product and it's boring. That's the worst possible. And you don't win and you're boring. What's the reason to go to UBS Arena?
God almighty. You always struggle over that, Grump.
USB?
UBS. No, he got it right. I think he said UBS.
Like the port, Grump.
I thought I said UBS.
I know, but you always pause over it. And I know you want to say USB.
Listen, I think the reason to go to UBS Arena this year is so that you can see Josh Bailey get his silver stick for achieving 1,000 regular season games with the New York Islanders. Yay! I cannot think of a night that will be more well attended. It might be more well attended than Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago.
Is that because Bailey's whole family's coming into town?
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh my good gracious! Oh,
but seriously. We're not fun to watch, and we don't win. I mean, that's like a death knell. You're trying to sell a product. Owners are trying to make money. This is not an altruistic venture on their part.
No.
Chris Botta came out and said that maybe the Islanders lost a little bit of their shine and sheen when they fired Barry Trotz. And now that Barry Trotz was gone, that maybe we didn't have as much pull. I'm like, dude, he was not coming. He was
not coming.
It's just like, how many more times do you have to say he's not coming here? He just was never coming here.
The amount of people I have to see write, oh, if only we would have matched Columbus's offer.
He was not coming here either.
No.
I was about to say, oh.
Does Chris Botta still think that he works for the Islanders?
He must.
Because he put a couple of those comments out today that's right out of the Islander PR playbook, honestly.
Real quick, an update as on the show. Nikita Zadorov.
That's a good contract.
3 years, $3.75 million a year. Not bad deal.
Not bad.
There's a lot of those type players out there available to be picked up. But here's the thing. When you have a team that's just loaded with pieces of trash on long-term, way too much money deals like the Islanders have in their forward group, there's nothing you can do unless you move some of those guys out.
Well, I mean, they could have made this fit, but do you want to make this fit or do you want to give Robin Salo a run on the bottom?
I want Robin Salo to play.
Yeah, I mean, so what's the point of this? If you got Johnny Gaudreau, if you got David Perron, then I'd probably want the more experienced player. But at this point, there's nothing really in the forward group in UFA. There is one move left on the table. There's only one move, and it requires a lot of balls, and that's JT Miller. That's it. That's the only high-impact forward that you could realistically go out. The Canucks are over the cap, and maybe you go and you say, hey, we've got a Beauvillier expiring in 2 years. You've got Miller expiring this summer. The cap dollars work out for us. It works out for you. We'll attach something else to it. Not next year's first-round pick. We'll figure something out. Clearly, they have not gotten the interest in JT Miller that they thought they were going to get. And I think the DeBrincat deal and the Fiala deal probably drove down the price significantly on someone who's an expiring UFA and who's 3 and 4 years older than those players.
True.
So if you want to make that kind of deal and flip Beauvillier because you think he is what he is in our organization and maybe the Canucks want to do something with him a little bit different, that's a deal that might make sense. But with the team as it's currently constructed to go out and spend money on Zadorov, what's the point?
I'm like, do you want to have another guy who's going to be in his 30s on an 8-year contract? Because you know that's what happened with JT Miller. They throw the freaking bank at him, and they'd re-sign him to a ridiculous long-term deal in his 30s.
Don't re-sign him. Don't re-sign him.
So you would trade all that up for a rental?
I would trade Beauvillier and something else that's not a first-round pick to rent JT Miller and then figure it out next summer. Make Barzal happy. He'd be so excited playing with this guy.
You know, that's a good. What do you think Matt Barzal is thinking right now?
Oh shit. I don't want to know what he's thinking.
Here's what I think he's thinking. I cannot wait to sign my 1-year tender next year and leave.
Well, they'll just trade him at that point.
Well, that's what they should do. If he says he doesn't want a long-term deal, they have to move him immediately, and then it's blow it all up. Take all the old bastards, strap them up to the train station, and just shoot them right there. Get rid of them, start over. Our forward group's a disaster. It's the worst forward group in the history of the NHL.
In the history of the NHL, huh, Grumpy?
Yes.
You haven't seen Arizona, have you?
I take Arizona. At least Arizona looks like they got some guys who pretend like they want to score.
Do they? I don't think they do.
I'm going to say that. They picked up Max Domi, Nick Bukestad.
Did they get Domi? That's where Domi is?
Yeah, was it like $1 million a year?
Yeah, $3 million. 1 year for $3 million.
Ugh.
Well, $3 million. I know Phil's not a fan of Max Domi, but I'm like, that's a guy who that's a good bottom six.
Josh Bailey makes $5 million against the cap.
When I say that, would Josh Bailey's making $5 million a year? David Perron's making less money than Josh Bailey is, and I just am left here scratching my head saying, "My God, I caramba."
Think about how much of an overpay that was for Josh Bailey. He's still, if even after 5 years of depreciation, he was making $5 million a year 5 years ago. Think about that. And he couldn't wait. I mean, he had to get his hands out of his pants to sign that contract. And he goes, what? Absolutely.
Garth thought, at the very least, they didn't have trade protection, but I think the contract on its own is trade protection because no one wants to trade for it.
There you go.
I mean, it's built-in trade protection right there. Garth thought, apparently, that signing Josh Bailey for 6 years would get Tavares to stay. I mean, he did that before the trade deadline.
I thought Garth was fired when they re-signed him back.
No, they signed him mid-season. They signed him before the trade deadline.
Yes.
They could have traded him. They could have gone. He made the All-Star game that year. He was a point per game at that point. For a while, it was him and Blake Wheeler trading off the league lead for assists.
Wow.
He played well. I mean, they didn't really play well. They all got a lot of points. The team played awful.
That's when Doug Waite was the high-flying offensive style, no defense.
Wasn't that the year that they started counting third assists? Is that why Josh Bailey was second in the league?
They did it on a one-year experiment, Grump. Yes.
Okay.
Just to boost his cap hit.
Oh, good gracious.
I'm sorry.
So, yes, Islanders have not made any moves. Even you mentioned Mahayev. I mean, he's gone. I mean, there's so many players that
a reasonable deal, by the way.
Yeah,
4 years, 4.75
players around the $4-5 million a year range that are guys that are maybe second liners on an okay team, on a really really stout team, maybe a really good third liner that are all going for reasonable cap hits, and we're just sitting here saying we've not done anything.
We are a team with $12 million of cap space, only a couple of restricted free agents to sign in a flat tax era for 3 straight years, and we can't make a move to improve the roster. Think about that. Think about that. Everyone else is able to make moves with less cap money, or just the teams that have cap money, they're not afraid to spend it. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I mean, what should the fan base think? This is the same group they were rolling out there in essence for the last 8 years. Think about that.
Or forwards. The forwards are very similar.
That's all I care about. The defense is okay. It's the forward group.
The defenses aren't. And this is why I was beyond upset on draft night. I just had the feeling after that move was made, we were not doing a damn thing else besides that. I don't think we're getting JT Miller. And just like you had mentioned, Phil mentioned this before the show, right? Who do we blame a little bit? He puts it also the onus on ownership. He also told us before the show, he's like, does moving 3 players like a Varlamov, a Josh Bailey, or an Anthony Beauvillier, and then to open up space to make big free agent signings, does that sound like something Lou Lamoriello would do? And you think and sit about it, you think and you sit and think about it for a second. You say, yeah, that's not anything Lou would probably ever would entertain.
Okay, I'm going to say Lou wouldn't do that, but he's a fool for not doing that. We have so much trash on this roster that I can't wait to get rid of those guys. I don't care if you get pennies on the dollar, just getting them. It's like addition by subtraction for me. Think about it. You get rid of those 3 guys, right? Bailey, Beauvillier, and Varlamov.
Backup goalie.
That's $14 million. You can revamp your team with $14 million.
You
could have gotten
plus the 12 that you had.
You could have gotten Samsonov for 1.8. Okay, that was an idea I floated.
As a backup.
He worked with Mitch Korn in Washington, right? Maybe Mitch Korn would have been able to get him back on the rails. Once a promising goaltender, he's been awful the past couple of years in Washington. Great signing by Toronto, $1.8 million for Samsonov. You could have gotten Perron. Maybe Perron didn't want to come here, but at the very least, you could have gotten Mikheyev, and then you could have gotten someone else. That's the point. And maybe it doesn't even need to be removing Beauvillier. You could keep Beauvillier. Move Bailey. Bailey's tough to move. After watching what Arizona did to the Rangers today, taking 2 second-round picks for only $2.5 million of Nemeth, I don't know how portable he is. But at the very least, you could have traded Varlamov, opening up enough space to get Samsonov and Mikheyev.
You could have traded Varlamov and Beauvillier to get assets back. You could have offloaded those assets to get rid of Bailey, trying to keep it somewhat net neutral. You would have had the cap space to get to try. Right, Gaudreau was never coming here, but in an ideal world, you would have had the cap space to get a guy like Gaudreau if he was even available, which he wasn't. But you could have got Perron. You could have gotten any other winger, name your pick, and you could have also filled it with a more than adequate goalie. So you would have improved the forward. I mean, I like Anthony Beauvillier. I hope he takes a step forward. But at this point in time in his career, he's a third-line guy who's wildly inconsistent. A guy like Josh Bailey is a third-line player who is anemic and allergic to mixing it up down low in front of the net and just hangs out, as Grumpy says, on the perimeter. And, you're looking at those two players gone for a more steady hand and a David Perron plus whatever other forward you wanted to add. That's making a legitimate change to improve the team and to push the team forward, right? I could say, yes, I'm not upset with the Romanov trade. We've actually made a push to make this team better for now. And our window is short.
It's over. The window's over. The window is shut. The latch is freaking closed. They put a lock on it. They've sold the house. It's over.
Yeah, I think the better path forward, unless you make that impact move, which they're not going to make, the better move right now is to have sign Dobson, maybe even go long term. See if he'll bite on a long term deal at $6 million. Sign Romanov to a bridge. Invite a team to dump an expiring toxic contract on us for picks with the remaining space. Right? You can't take JVR, unfortunately. But if someone has $2-3 million in an expiring deal that they just can't get rid of, we'll take 2 second-round picks and we'll take that, and then open up legitimate competition in camp so that a guy like Ratu can legitimately compete, so a guy like Holmstrom could legitimately compete, and then just go from there. You'll have plenty of assets to sell off at the deadline.
So you're
thinking need to.
No longer are we in cup competition mode rebuild.
If you are not making a legitimate upgrade, then I don't think that this team is going to be competitive enough to qualify for the playoffs this year. And you're better off loading up on assets. And my prediction is if the group goes in as constructed now, this is a 10th place team. This right now is a 10th place team. They're going to be in 10th place in February. You're going to be in a position to sell off Mayfield, Varlamov, maybe even Beauvillier if someone wants a 2-year rental.
How about Bailey?
No one's taking Bailey. I'm sorry.
You know maybe what? I'm telling you, those guys. Maybe. Put them on long-term injury. Run them over in the parking lot. Do whatever you got to do.
Josh Bailey, I've said it before. I really thought, you look at what JVR, at least what they thought would require, what it was rumored it would require to move him. Was it like a second or a first round pick?
A first round pick in 2024.
Yikes.
I mean, my whole thing is, do you really think they're into acquiring assets? I don't.
I don't either.
I don't.
They're not, but they should be. I'm telling you what they should be doing. There's two options. There's two. You go for a home run swing with a trade, or you just embrace the fact that this is going to be the group. You're going to have excess cap space that you may as well weaponize, and then just see where it lands at the deadline. Maybe they surprise us like 2018 and 19, and they happen to be good somehow because they're getting elite goaltending, and all the forwards are stepping up, and Wallstrom's scoring goals and buckets, and his 22-year-old season is a heck of a lot better than 21, and Beauvillier is firing on all cylinders, and maybe you have it, but probably not, in which case you've got a lot of pieces to sell off.
I've been espousing that theory for years because
you could do it now.
I've never felt this team was ever good enough to win a Stanley Cup, ever. Even when we were in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm like, this team is not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. I've been saying that for years. I just feel like, again, this year, and I like the deal for Romanov, I do. But again, the team isn't close to being good enough. And you're moving away your first round pick again. And as opposed to Simon Holmstrom, legitimately trying for a job, they already got a good puck boy on the Islanders, so they don't need him. Believe me, there is no way he makes the team next year. No way, absolutely no way.
Probably not. Without moving out of forward.
And here's the thing, that's not because he's not going to be given a shot. He's just not good enough.
We do have the second coming of Wayne Gretzky and Bobby Hull though coming up on Wayne Grump. William DeFore. He's going to make the team right out of camp.
Right out of camp. That's what the Post says.
He can't skate. He can't skate. He cannot skate. He's a glider. He's a floater. He's got a great shot. He's got good vision, but he can't skate. He's slow by Canadian Hockey League standards. He's slow. He's
take
like
that,
Griffin
take that
Reinhardt.
extra cap space and invest it in skating lessons. That's what you do.
He's like the Griffin Reinhardt of the forward group.
And let me ask you this too. Now we talk about the toughest job next year is not going to be the players. It's going to be people trying to sell season tickets, people trying to entice the fan base to try to get seats or fans in the seats. Let me ask you this, because the ownership will think of, hey, do we have enough people? Are we generating interest and intrigue? I could not imagine they're very thrilled with how things are going at the moment. We have not made any tangible upgrades to this team besides Romanoff. We have not addressed the need to improve the forward group yet. And I wonder how long or what that's going to do for where Lou sits. We've seen a lot of them in the comments fire Lou, get rid of Lou. I'd be remiss if we didn't bring up the how warm is Lou's seats feeling, or how warm should his seat feel? Because I think the answers could be different. How warm actually is his seat, or how warm should his seat actually be?
It's probably pretty warm right now, because with those depends, when you PM a couple of times, that little moisture just kind of fits in those pants. So it's probably a little warm right now.
Okay, serious answer though, Grump.
For me, I think this should be his last year, regardless. I thought they should have brought in, I've been saying forever, bring in a young assistant to learn under him for a year, and they'll let him take the reins. That's what they should have done. So that you're not bringing in somebody, because you're not going to get, a Brisebois, an Yzerman. You're not going to get anything like that. If you could kind of develop somebody not named Fredo Lamoriello, if you could develop somebody, you bring him in, let him learn the ropes, and then push Lou upstairs.
Let Pellegrino take over. Give him the job. Let's see what he could do.
Isn't he the cap guy?
Yeah, he's the cap guy. He's
okay,
the assistant.
so no,
I think he's technically the assistant GM.
He's failed at that, so no.
I'd give him a shot.
I wouldn't mind Mr. Outside hire.
Yes.
I don't know. I look at Sergachev getting 8 years for $8.5 million today. And then I look at Pelech getting 8 years for 5.7. I don't know.
Pelech brings nothing offensively. I know you're going to tell me he brings 5-on-5 production. Pelech is not offensive minded. I think.
How many points did Sergachev have this year? I don't even know off the top of my head. How many points did he have?
We had him 45, 40. Let me pull it up.
He?
I may be.
What did Pelech have? 30?
A second.
Okay.
I think the ability for Sergachev, and it's one of those things we talked about. I was disappointed with his lack of development, but I still think there's a higher ceiling for a guy like Sergachev than there is a guy like Pelech.
He's only 24. Sergachev's only 24.
Pelech got that deal at age 26. Sergachev had 38 points this year.
38 points. Okay.
Pelech had what, 30?
So Sergachev puts up more points.
Pelech had 28. He had 10 more points. You're telling me that 10 more points for a significantly worse defenseman is worth an extra $3 million per year? Come on.
I think the fact that he's a two-time cup winner and he's 24 years old, and I think that has – and here's the thing. I don't think that Sergachev is the greatest defenseman in the world. But
he just turned 24 too.
He's fine defensively. He's not great defensively.
I think
they're going to find out what a step down he is from McDonough next year. They're going to miss McDonough in that system.
I think maybe they'll give him the offensive slot as opposed to playing the defensive role on that second pairing.
Adam Pelech wasn't even in the league until he was 24 years old.
No, he was on the top. He was in the league when he was 21.
Was he really
when Barry got there, he was 23. His first season, he and Pollock were 23 years old with Barry.
Honestly, it must be
his third season. What?
It's got to be the hairline. He looks a lot older than he is, coming from a guy who's balding too. But man, it's the hairline that must. Because to me, I always feel like he's a lot older than he is, and every time I look at his age, I'm like, holy shit, he's only in his 20s.
He's 27.
Wow, Adam Pelech's younger than me. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, he's been in the league for a while. He's been in the league since. I mean, he entered when he was 21, I think. Christ. He wasn't that good up until Barry came around.
He didn't even play for the Islanders. And matter of fact, the first year Barry was there, he wasn't a starter to start.
Yes, he was a starter. He played 78 games.
He started
Lucas.
Okay, I have it here. You ready?
He started off. He was number 7 defenseman behind Lucas Spiza
for 2 games.
How the hell was he healthy scratch at all? But anyway, so
Pelech.
I thought he didn't get a step into the league until he was 24. But
he was 21 years old and he played 9 games. When he was 22 years old, he played on that Doug Waite team and was awful. Played 44 games. When he was 23, he and Pollock moved their way up to be the top pair.
And he'll be 28. He'll be 28.
It's also a career year for Pelech in points.
Yeah, he's a defensive defenseman.
He's
a
I
defensive
don't expect
defenseman.
him to be putting up points like this is a career year for him. And I mean, like Sergachev, I still think the room for growth more is there more. I mean, like maybe they paid a little bit more. They're paying for potential, I think, of what he could be. I like the Pelech signing. If Sergachev takes a step forward in his career, rounds things out a little bit in the back end, I think long term that's a good deal for them too.
Could be, but I think that's a crazy number
It's
right
a big
now.
if.
I love the Cirelli deal, 8 by 6.1. That's a great deal.
You're buying for all of those players. You wind up buying 4 years of unrestricted free agency, all of them. I mean, I thought Tampa did great today. They had their core locked up. I'm not saying Stamkos has 2 more years, and Kucherov I think has 3 or 4 more years, but they've tied everybody, all their big ones. I think Hedman also has 3 more years left. That core is locked up. I thought what they did today was so smart because the salary cap is going to go up, and you're going to see those deals are going to be absolute bargains. I think the Pelech deal is a bargain as well.
Yes.
The best deal Tampa made today was Nemesnikov for $2.5 million. And here's why. They're going to lose Palat. Nemesnikov played on Tampa in that 16-17 season in their top 6 and worked extremely well. He had 20 goals and 24 assists in like 60 games. Everyone thought he was a big piece. He went back in the McDonough JT Miller trade, immediately was terrible with the Rangers, was okay with the Senators, was better with Colorado and the Red Wings and the Stars. But there you have a person who's worked in that system before, who they know what they could potentially get out of him. And you're essentially replacing Palat for $2.5 million. And this is why I also said I don't want anything to do with Palat. Not that I don't think he's a good player. I think Palat's a very good player. I'm just wary of a guy who's only ever played with elite talent, leaving that situation where his line mates have always been Stamkos, Point, Kucherov, Killorn back before he decided to turn into the Tin Man, and putting him on a team that doesn't have comparable type players. I have no idea what to expect out of him.
Yeah. The talent level drop off amongst his line mates, it's going to be severe. I'm not expecting a guy like Palat to replicate anything what he did in Tampa. It's a reason why I have him around a third. It's the reason why he's still available come day 2 of NHL free agency. It's the reason why he wasn't one of the first guys signed in day 1. It wasn't like he had a long list of suitors offering hand over fist for him. I think a lot of people share the same exact worries and concerns.
I thought he made a lot of sense for Toronto. I thought if Toronto was going to move off Kerfoot and Justin Hall or something like that and put him with Tavares and Nylander, I thought that would have been a very interesting line because they're in a contend now for the cup window. So if you overpay in terms of years, it really doesn't matter. That is an option that and maybe it will materialize. Who knows? They still have time to do it because he's available. That's the type of situation where I think he would be well suited. Colorado for $5 million for 5 years or something like that. These are situations where a team that wants to win cups right now, it makes sense. If you're the Islanders, it makes 0 sense.
Yeah, for me, he's like one of those guys, a put you over the top guy.
Yeah.
He's a proven playoff performer. I think he's better in the playoffs than during the regular season. But we're not there. We're not there right now. We needed a Johnny Gaudreau type or whoever. We need, I'm not saying a marquee name, but we need a marquee talent.
Right.
And I thought Gaudreau was that. I don't think anyone else is. I don't think anyone else in free agency was that talent, to be honest with you.
I thought Pacioretty, if you could have gotten Pacioretty, and again, his health is a bit of a wild card lately, but he's got one of the best goal scoring rates in the NHL over the past several years. He's a sniper, a goal scorer. You put him with Barzal, he could have put up 40 goals in a full season. Brilliant move by Carolina.
When was the last time he played
him all the time? And
he's in his 30s. He's in his 30s.
But he's only got 1 year left. You don't need to worry about that. He's 33, and this is the last year of his deal. Carolina did well to get him. If they only get 60 games out of him, but he could play in the playoffs, man, oh man, did they do well there.
I mean, and I like what Carolina did today. Seems like they always make the right move. Brent Burns, okay. Now, they're only paying 2/3 of that salary.
5.1.
Yep. So, I mean, I realize. I mean, I think he's got what 3 more years, 4 more years, 3 or 4. Okay, 3 more years left on that deal. I think they only have to pay like $13 million cash. 13.5 is what they wound up having to pay over those 3 years. And to me, what was the one thing they lacked a little bit of? A little bit of snarl, perhaps. They seemed like maybe they were a little too easy to play against, and a little bit of veteran leadership. And I think they got that today in Pacioretty and Burns. And it seems like every time they do something where you scratch your head, they come out smelling like a rose. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're letting Trocheck, Nino, D'Angelo, Ian Cole. I mean, half that blue line walked. That was a good defensive core last year. And Smith, Cole, D'Angelo all gone. That's half of it. I think they still have a couple more pieces they need to add back, unless they have prospects coming through, which I'm not sure of. And then offensively, you're replacing Trocheck and Nino. Pacioretty's a good start. That's a very good start to replacing that.
And Ian Cole, I mean, I think we both can agree, is a really solid defensive player.
Great ad by Tampa.
And he goes to Tampa.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Tampa knows what they're doing.
He's going to seamlessly replace Jan Ruda.
Yep. For a cheaper price.
No, he's a little more expensive. Ruda went for $275 to the Penguins, but no term. It's just 1 year. Right. Ruda got 2 3/4 for 4 years, I think.
Right. And I don't think they wanted to give him that many years.
They didn't want to give him term. So they went and they got a plug-and-play kind of guy. They've been doing this with Bogosian, albeit at a cheaper price, but they had some cap flexibility this year because they cleared out McDonough, and they're not bringing back Palat, and they're not bringing back, Ruda, of course, like we just mentioned. These 8-year extensions don't kick in till next year. So next year things might get a little bit hairy for them, but they've got at least one more good year of cup contention.
Also, just to let you know, Cirelli and Bogosian both had shoulder surgeries after the season, so they're going to be out 4 to 6 months. So I guess that means they could pop them on long-term injury and get the benefit cap-wise of that as well.
They're not going to get any benefit unless they
unless there's other injuries.
Unless there's other injuries this season. I don't think they're playing it that way. That's a dangerous game when it's that far out.
Everything seems to work for them.
Hey, and the sun and stars align. But let me ask you this. So there have always been 2 camps of individuals when it comes down to Lou Lamoriello as a general manager. Barry's gone, right? We could say everything in the onus now is completely on Lou Lamoriello, right? He's under the microscope and should be from this point after the firing of Barry Trotz. Now, some people believe that Lou Lamoriello plays 4D chess. He's very patient, and the reason he's doing that is because he's tactical. He waits for the right time to strike, and that's the reason why he's able to, re-sign back Pelech and Pulak on cheap sweetheart-type deals. And that's the reason why he's able to bring in a guy like Zach Parise on a close to a vet minimum deal with bonuses at the end to play, as a solid third-line guy. There are also people in the camp of, Lou Lamoriello is finished as a general manager. He used to be good 15, 20 years ago, at the top of the game, but it just seems like hockey has passed him by. Now, I want, kind of your opinions on this. I know Grumpy, I can only venture to see what Grump's opinion is, but I'm kind of interested to hear, Phil. Are you more in the camp of he's still playing 4D chess? He has specific plans that he's got divvied out, and he's kind of got it written down. If it goes this way, I'm going to make this move, and it's going to propel the team's success. Or do you think that the game has just passed him by?
I think it's less about the game passing him by and more about the rules that he's playing by are new to him, and he's never had to work within the framework of a market that isn't the Devils from the era when he was the general manager there, when they were a perennial Stanley Cup contender, and a big market team like Toronto, where he was able to reel in Austin Matthews and have that as a marquee destination. This is the first time he's ever been in a situation where you're not going to be the first choice. You're probably not going to be the second choice, and you're probably not going to be the third choice either. And I think he's applying the rules and principles that he had from those teams to a situation where that simply does not work. And it's clear that he hasn't been able to adapt based on how he did today.
I find it hard to believe, though, that I know the Islanders have been bad for a while, but this should be the easiest it is in Islanders or in franchise history to sell the Islanders to prospective free agents. We have the best arena in all of the NHL. We've got brand new practice facilities. Our team and our ownership show commitment to play and perform. We are not afraid to try to do and be bold when it comes down to, being up at the salary cap limit and making sure that, hey, certain moves we make are going to be structured to help the team, ideally. I mean, this should be one of the easiest time periods that we've ever had. It still looks like it's a struggle. I did happen to make a very scientific post as to whether we think Lou's playing 4D chess or whether the game has possibly passed him by. And it looks like the 4D chess, people who are voting on that, I think only one person has voted out of 61 votes. So all the people who think he's playing 4D chess out there on Twitter and all the Lou lemonade drinkers have to go and make their voice heard. But
yeah, for me, oh, hold on. He just went past me right
now.
By
the way, we have breaking news, which should come as a relief to everyone here. But Ryan Strome, he's not coming to the Islanders. He's going to Anaheim for 5 years.
Wow.
Good. Thank goodness.
What type of contract did he sign?
5 times 5. Good for him. Wow.
He's got the same deal as Bailey, and he's a hell of a lot more productive than Bailey.
I think he's just right-handed Josh Bailey, who just hasn't hit that part of the aging curve yet. I think they're just a mirror image of the same person.
I think he's better than Bailey. He's a better skater for certain.
I don't know. The Strome boys do not skate very well. I think that's been their biggest issue for them being able to reach their potential. Dylan also. They're just terrible skaters.
Yeah, Dylan's not a great skater, but I think Ryan's a pretty good skater. Here's the thing. He's a better skater than Bailey. That's all I have to say. But I don't disagree. I'm glad he's not coming back here, to be honest with you.
Ryan also has eclipsed the 20-goal mark once in his career, and I know that Josh Bailey has never accomplished such a feat.
Think about that. When he was playing under Doug Waite, where we scored like 700 goals that year, he still couldn't even get 20.
I think if he would have played the full season, he would have.
But he didn't. He didn't.
But he didn't.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. He didn't.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan Strome is better than Josh Bailey. I just think he's a bit younger. He's a lot less clutch than Bailey. Let's put it that way. After watching him in the playoffs this year, I think the comparison to Bailey, who actually came up big in certain moments in the playoffs, is probably unfair to Bailey. As a matter of fact, I think Bailey's a better player than Ryan Strome. Yeah, I think I'm comfortable saying that. I think Strome has been complete. Any bright spot in his career has been when he's played with Panarin. Outside of that, he's really been a zero. He's been a complete and total zero.
Bailey's his career has been John Tavares. Everything else has been a zero.
No, give him those 2 playoff runs. Okay? He was the most productive point producer on the first one, and he scored in very big moments on the second one.
He should be easy to sell to a playoff team then.
He's not.
Because he sucks.
Be really easy. We should get a lot back.
He's bad. But however bad you think Bailey is, I think Strome is worse.
I think Strome is better, but it doesn't matter. I don't want either guy.
They're both not good.
I'm happy we did not bring Ryan Strome back.
Yes.
That's
now, Nino is still out there as a free agent. Is that correct?
No.
I don't want Nino either.
Trust me, I don't either, but I've seen people saying, oh, maybe we should bring Nino Niederreiter back. I'm just
what?
We need someone who moves the dial. Our whole team are a bunch of middle to lower, second, third, mostly third line players. That's the majority of our team. The vast majority, that's their skill level. We don't need more of those guys. We need guys who are capable of playing on the first line and not Leo Komarovs where you just put them on the first line because you have no one else. Until that happens, and we have to move guys out, until that happens, we're just going to be stuck where we are. A team that has to play really good defense, hopefully great goaltending, and maybe catch lightning in a bottle. That's it. To me, the biggest issue going forward in this team is what do you do with Matt Barzal? That's it. That's it right now. That's the next biggest thing on the horizon. What are you doing with Matt Barzal? That's it.
What are you doing? You're the GM. What do you do?
I'm offering him a big deal right now.
And if he doesn't sign it, you train him this summer?
Then I trade him. I'm sorry. And then I blow the whole thing up. I keep the defense. All the forwards are gone. Every single one of them. Well, I keep some of the young guys, but I do anything. You know what I do? What Chicago's doing with the
tank for Bedard.
Just get rid of everybody, and that's not going to happen. We're not going to be that bad. That's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But they're trying to make it so Kane and Taves, who have no move clauses, are going to say, "Get me out of here."
I was about to say, when do you think a guy like that gets moved? Because right, Kane is a very, very talented player, makes $10.5 million a year. That's a guy that realistically, right, I could have imagined that, okay, we could fit a guy like that under the cap if we were to go ahead and make moves, or at the deadline if we're still in it, right, if they're willing to withhold some sort of cap, that is a way that we can improve the wingers. But, I'm looking at the free agent options. There's not many, right? You're almost looking at, we maybe get a guy who's a middle six forward, one middle six forward, and at the trade deadline, if we're still in the picture, we're going to trade our first round draft pick in a very, very deep 2023 draft to improve the winger.
You could trade the 2024 pick, but no, I think Patrick Kane is probably going to wait until the trade deadline before making a decision. I just think it's more advantageous to. If you're in that position, you could scope out who's where at that point in the season, where you believe the prime and best destination for you to win another cup is. Why do it now?
Couldn't you see him going to Tampa at the deadline?
If they could make the cap money work, then sure.
Yeah.
If they could figure out another team to retain salary and then Patrick Kane goes there, yeah. So, I mean, and that's not a move that you can make right now because you can't have a team take on half that salary right now and then split it in half. That usually doesn't happen now. That's something that happens at the trade deadline. But that's why I don't think that's going to be an off-season move. I don't know that anyone's going to take Taves. Taves was pretty terrible last year. Even if you're eating half, I mean, you might need to attach a pick to get rid of Jonathan Taves, and it's pointless to do that. He was pretty rough. If the cost to move JVR, who just had 24 goals, and previous to that had, what was he, 0.8 of a point per game, or 0.8 points per game the season before, he had 43 points in the COVID-shortened season. He was excellent. And the Flyers can't move him without moving a first-round pick. I don't think you're going to be able to move Jonathan Taves right now.
Best case scenario for the Islanders going forward, you said, is JT Miller. How much do you think a price tag on JT Miller would be
in a trade?
It seems a lot of the pieces are falling.
In a trade,
mm-hmm.
I think you gotta listen. If you don't want to give up a first-round pick, Beauvillier has to be part of the package, and Beauvillier has to be a piece that Vancouver believes that they could make into something. Which I don't know if they do. I don't know if they don't, but it has to be something centered around a roster player leaving, and that's the one to me that makes the most sense. If you're going to resign yourself to the fact that on the Beauvillier file, we've given it 6 years, he had a great playoff run, and it's just simply not going to work out here, and we have a chance to bring in a high-end top-line forward to play with Barzal, attach a couple other pieces, because I don't think Vancouver's getting anything close to what they thought they were going to get heading into the summer. And they could keep saying, oh, people are kicking tires. No one's made a serious offer. I'm sure there have been offers. I can't believe that people are just calling for the sake of calling.
Hi, Vancouver. We love you.
Right. But people saw what Fiala went for, and it wasn't exorbitant. It was a 19 pick and a really good prospect. Kirby Dach picked 739 and a third-round pick next year.
You think Brock Fabian's a good
Not Kirby Dach, Alex DeBrincat.
Yep.
And a steal of a deal. I mean, you had to have the right picks that Chicago wanted for it, but Ottawa did. JT Miller, you can't ask for more than those guys.
Nope. Not at his age.
And not with his, if he had 2 more years left, then they'd be golden. You know, 29, 30, 31 seasons, if you had, that structured that way. But it's 29 and then UFA. So at 30, you all of a sudden are faced with a decision, okay, given how many games he's played, and he's played a lot. He's been in the Rangers brought him in pretty early. This is not someone like Mikheyev who only entered the league at 25 and doesn't have as many miles on his body. This is a guy who's got mileage on him. At 30, how many years am I willing to commit? Because he's going to want at least 7. And if he has another point per game plus season, he's going to demand at least $8 to $8.5 million. I'm thinking something like Mika Zibanejad in terms of cost. Most teams are not going to want to pay that.
I know he had a 99-point season, but I just think he's overrated.
Oh, no. He's 12th in scoring since he's reached Vancouver. This was not he might not be a 99. He's not a 99-point player, but his first year there, he was better than point per game. The second season he was there with the entire team having a 1-month COVID shutdown and all these other problems in a shitty playing environment. He was almost point per game. And then last year he had 99 points. I think he's legitimate. He's legitimately good. He's a pretty rare combination of a power forward type player, but also having burners where he's got speed and he can get by you. The other thing he brings is he's elite in the shootout and he's great in 3-on-3 overtime. So the 6 or 7 points that you're going to leave on the table, he's someone who could get some of that back for you. It's the long-term outlook on him where I would be willing to say, okay, I'm going to sacrifice 2 years of Beauvillier for 1 year of this guy and see where it goes.
That's fair. Maybe it's just his name, Miller.
Vancouver is one of those teams. I know they struggled this year, but in years past, am I wrong to think that they were more of one of those high-flying teams that do put a lot of pucks in the net? Guys like Elias Pettersson, and you look at that. You look at the way that team's constructed. I know it's not the same way our team's constructed. I'm not saying that JT Miller is going to have a hard time acclimating. I just don't expect the same results that he had in Vancouver to correlate to what he'll have here in the Islanders for the Islanders.
He's a solid two-way player, but the crazy thing about him in Vancouver, every single Vancouver forward for the past 2 seasons has underperformed miserably, including Elias Pettersson. Including Brock Besser. He has fallen off dramatically since his rookie season. Horvat hasn't been as good as he was previously, and there was talks around maybe trading him last year before the season started. The only player in their top 6 who has been lights out has been JT Miller, and he's made everyone better around him who he's played with.
He sucks.
He could put up 95 points this year, and you're going to say he sucks again.
You know what? You're playing on a loser team. It's easier to play. I just think he's overrated. That's all. I'm not saying he's terrible. I just think I think
he's underrated.
Okay.
I think he's underrated. I don't think people appreciate what he's been able to do in those circumstances.
I agree that I don't. That's for certain.
So that's
where are the flaws in his game? He's a center. He's a winger. He does everything. He's nasty. He'll knock you back to Syracuse. I mean, there's nothing he can't do.
I didn't say he couldn't be a great AHL player, knocking me back to Syracuse. I'm saying NHL player. Hey, like I said, he's not bad. I don't know. I've never been in love with him. Even when he played for the Rangers, just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
So that's best case scenario. Let's assume we don't make a move or pull the trigger for JT Miller, because let's be honest. What apparently had happened is they had some sort of deal lined up and negotiated, but apparently the hang up was they wouldn't let teams talk with JT Miller ahead of time to discuss what type of contract he was looking at or interested in. And I assume that's going to be one of those that's going to be a deterring factor going forward, and maybe they loosen up a bit on that. But
you said where do we go forward? I don't think we're going to do anything, but just to let you know, there is a possibility. Jaromir Jagr sent a Twitter to inform NHL GMs that he is slow but strong and ready to come back at age 50. And I know Lou is, hey, this guy was really great back in the day. Owners, let's get him in here. We can have, Jaromir Jagr night. Put him in a Penguins jersey. Put him in a cap
bobblehead.
I can't imagine he'd be less useful than Josh Bailey. And I mean that seriously. He's probably still better than Josh Bailey.
He can't skate.
I don't care.
It's like having Zdeno Chara on your forward group.
I don't think Josh Bailey could skate that well either anymore.
Now, I hate Bailey.
Okay.
But I still think he skates better than Jagr.
Fair enough. Martin.
Now, I don't think he does anything else better, but he does skate better. And you got to be able to skate to play. You do.
In years past, at least under Lou Lamoriello's regime, the Islanders have waited weeks upon weeks upon weeks for any deals to be made. Do we expect something similar this time around?
No.
You expect something to happen more soon, Grump?
I think that was a one-off. That was, other than, listen, the first year, everything was announced straight out of the gate. They got Leo, Filppula, Leonard. That was all done within a day or two, right? And then the next year, I think they only added Varlamov. That was done right away. They got Nelson and Eberle and Lee. That was all done by July 1st also. And then they added Brassard a little bit later on because they were sniffing around for a bargain bin 3C. The following year, the only reason it took so long is because they needed to figure out Boychuk with LTIR. They traded Taze because of the cap crunch. And then they ended up going all the way into camp to negotiate the Barzal deal. But last year was really the first year that they tried that shtick out, and it didn't really work out well.
What's it last? They did it. You're right, during the Boychuk LTIR, and they did it last year too. I'd say I mean, like, besides signing guys back, I mean, you look at the actual additions. It took a while to bring in Derek Brassard. I don't think we brought any additions besides Brassard that year that came in early. But again, it's so long ago, hard to remember. I think that's what we've done in the past, but you don't think it's going to take as long this year?
I just don't think I'm with Grumpy. I don't think they're adding anyone. I think the odds are they're not going to be adding anyone. They announced, I mean, listen, unlike last year it was so ridiculous that they waited until the day before training camp opened to even announce the AHL contracts. Yeah. So at least they announced the AHL guys this year and I thought the most interesting one was actually Grant Hutton. I didn't even know if Hutton would want to be back. The fact that they gave Hutton 3 years and at year 2, it kicks in to be a one-way deal maybe, or year 3 means that they might be thinking about him if he could be a Mayfield replacement next year, which would be smart. Yep. I'm not saying he'll earn the job, but at least it shows that there's a willingness to continue developing a guy who's 26 right now. That was an interesting one. I don't think any of us expected Aho to be back, but that was a little bit of a change of pace from last year when we got all 21 deals or whatever it was dumped on us the day before training camp.
Yeah, I just don't see any moves. I mean, for me, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but
I'm sure you will.
To bring anyone in, you have to move somebody out. And at this point, who are you going to move out? Who wants anybody that we possibly want to move out with the exception of Bavillier? And then what are you going to bring in? Who's going to be an adequate replacement? I just don't see it. I just see another offseason of the Islanders doing absolutely nothing to improve the greatest need supposedly of the team, scoring. Our defense is set. I loved what we did with Romanov, really did. But like I said, that's part A. I always go part A, part B. I love the Romanov deal. I know we gave up that first-round draft pick, but then you did nothing to solve the scoring issue that we have on this team.
Yeah, and I think that's what's frustrating, right? I think Lou even alluded to the fact that was the first domino that needed to fall. You needed to have certainty with what you were doing on the back end because it was such a mess last year.
Yes.
And you had that to a certain degree. Maybe you wanted to go and get a Brendan Smith type to go compete with Salo, and he ended up signing with New Jersey. But other than that, an economic type 7D or 60, whatever you want to call it, we thought today was going to be about making an improvement or maybe 2 improvements up front, and they just didn't do it.
And that's what I thought. That for us to be legitimately, I'm not saying to contend for a playoff spot, but maybe some team that could do some damage, we had to have a Gaudreau and then a B. Like, I'm not saying Palat, but somebody like that who I consider the next level of free agent down. I thought we had to get a top guy on the offense, and then the next step down. And then it's like, okay, but of course you had to move some guys out. But I thought that maybe could have got us right back in the hunt. And not doing that, I just see a repeat of last year. I really do.
I mentioned earlier, hot seat. Is that a fireable offense from Lou? Is that? I mean, we had talked about what the requirements were for the offseason. If let's say we bring in Romanoff, we overpay for him with the 13th overall selection, at least from what my opinion stands, and you go ahead and bring in nobody else to improve the forward group. Maybe they go ahead and sign a depth defenseman as well to compete with a spot for Salo. Maybe they don't even do that. Is that a fireable offense to you?
He's not getting fired. He's not
getting fired. It's the last year of his contract. Someone brought up this is the last year of his contract technically. So they would never fire him anyways because he's Lou, Hall of Fame GM. And now you don't have to. But
you don't.
If you're talking about, are we going to extend him next year? I wouldn't extend him even if they made the playoffs.
Yes, no way. This is it for him.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry. He's 80 freaking years old.
Do you take his ability to make decisions away?
Why is he there?
At the trade deadline? Yeah. I mean, you might have to. I think the trade.
I look at when he sells assets. We've been overpaid. At least the one time we sold an asset like Devon Taves. And
no, we got great value for Leddy.
2nd round pick.
What were you expecting from it for him?
They wound up trading him at the deadline and wound up getting, what was it? What they got?
TJ, we had no leverage when we traded Leddy. He was going to be exposed in the expansion draft and was rumored to be on Seattle's list of players that they were looking at. They selected 10 defensemen. We had zero leverage. It was shocking that we got a second-round pick that turned into Ratu for Leddy. We had 0.00 leverage there.
0.00.
What leverage did we have?
You're not standing at a strong point when you can lose a guy like that. I'm not going to argue that point. But in the same token, right, you're asking, we got good value. I wouldn't say getting a second-round pick for guys, a top 4 defenseman, is value. I just wouldn't.
Okay, they could have held us over a barrel for Leddy. I didn't think we would get a 4th-round pick for him.
Really?
I thought it was a situation where we weren't going to be able to unload him, and Seattle was just going to take him, and then they would flip him. You always get more at the deadline because teams are overpaying at the deadline. And that's why we needed to take a little bit of money back even. We needed to take Panic back, remember. It wasn't just a second-round pick. We needed to take a little something in order to kind of even out the dollars. But you had a guy who was owed $7 million in real cash and was about to be left open for expansion. And how many suitors were there really that were able to offer a protection spot? And then Yzerman came in and gave us an early second-round pick for him.
Why would Seattle be fixated on drafting or drafting in the expansion draft Nick Leddy if he's going to get paid $7 million of real dollars? They weren't saying let's acquire as much real money we have to pay out as possible. Maybe the intrigue wasn't there as much as that. I
mean, they loaded up on defensemen. They took Mark Giordano. They took 10 NHL defensemen. Ended up having to waive a bunch of them. Ended up trading off a lot of them.
I can't imagine that being too high on the list, saying I'm going to take a cap at $5 million, but as a brand new franchise, I want to pay $7 million for a guy.
They did a lot of stupid things. Well, that whole expansion draft was stupid. But again, the only over 30-year-old forward that they ended up taking was Jordan Eberle. Right? So they had a playbook where they didn't want to take any forwards over the age of 30. The only one they did was Eberle because he's the only thing of relative value that the Islanders ended up leaving exposed. But if they left Leddy exposed, there is a very real chance that he would have been selected and then that they would have been left with absolutely nothing for them. I think that was a really good return for him.
I'm just glad he's gone. That's all I care about. Too. I'm just glad he's gone.
He signed for a year, $4 million a year extension in St. Louis.
I was just happy that he signed with St. Louis, so I didn't have to hear TJ again say how the Islanders were going to potentially bring him back into the fold. And you said 5 years, $5 million per. You might as well go.
I really could. Okay, we always overpay these guys we bring in. That's why I'm terrified.
I'm just saying,
you could sign somebody now. It's a free agent. I'm terrified of the contract we're going to give them. I'm sweating bullets at the moment.
I'm just saying. You said 5 at 5. I'm surprised. You should work for the Islanders front office because those are the type of contracts they
said what the Islanders are going to offer. That's right. I'm damn good at what the Islanders would offer.
If they would have offered 5 by 5, he would have been here. They did not offer 5 by 5. They didn't even talk to him. They didn't pick up the phone. I heard he wanted to come back, but they didn't want to pick up the phone from him.
Of course he wanted to come back. His career's over. He sucks, but everyone loves playing the Islanders. If you played here forever, there's no one's ever held accountable for anything. You can play till you're 50, and it don't freaking matter.
I guess that tells you, too, what Lou thought of an option like that. Because that's a guy very easily, if they wanted to, they could have still conserved the 13th overall selection. Or, hell, they could have even traded the 13th overall selection to bring in a young forward or bring in a guy that maybe has some sort of, could you imagine a Kirby Doc? Maybe they could have gotten a Kirby Doc or tried to make a move of that nature. But in the same token, right, they could have had a Nick Leddy via free agency, didn't apparently even call him up. We had pontificated this offseason when Barry Trotz and Lou Lamoriello separated and went their ways, or after Lou fired Trotz. I always wondered if the wanting to keep Nick Leddy and that being more public than not made Lou that started to split them apart a bit.
Who knows? All I know is 4x4 for Nick Leddy would have been a terrible mistake. They got a defenseman who's 9 years younger and is going to come out half the cost. So there's, you've got 4 different variables there as to why Nick Leddy made no sense.
And actually plays better defense.
And plays better defense, exactly. And skates well too.
Which is what we need.
Yeah, there was no place for Nick Leddy here other than on a cheap bottom pair deal to reunite with Mayfield. If you wanted to take $2.5 million on a 2-year deal, go right ahead. 4x4. Ugh.
I didn't want him at all. And here's the way I look at it. Lou probably said, you know what? I would take him back. But as soon as he left here, he grew that beard back. I thought I impressed upon him how unimportant it is to wear that beard. Sorry, he's off our list.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's for that spot. It's open competition between Salo and Aho. It looks like
Salo should be the guy.
He should be.
And Aho is your number 7. I mean, I have no problem with the defense at all, injuries notwithstanding, or the goaltending. I'd rather move Varlamov, honestly, but they're not going to do that. That's pretty obvious. It's the forward group that's just a nightmare. 8 guys over the age of 30. 8 of your 12 over the age of 30. And none of them produce. None of the guys over 30 produce. Not a one.
Except for the fact that it was only the guys over 30 producing last year.
Oh, when the whole team is over 30. I mean, shit. We didn't score any goals. Yeah, the majority of the team's over 30.
How many?
Anthony Beauvillier scored at a weaker rate than Casey Cizikas. I mean,
I got one forward who produced better than what I'd expected last year, and that's Parise.
Okay.
No, Nelson produced better than anyone expected.
Yeah,
62 points
Nelson.
in 72 games. I mean, Nelson,
he
was consistent
I've
out of
always
the
thought
gate.
very highly of Nelson, though.
I know. It's just Grumpy that doesn't. Grumpy doesn't understand Brock.
Andrews, yeah, Croc. And Andrews Lee was good for a 3-week period of time. Week prior to the trade deadline, week and a half, and a week and a half after. That's it. Other than that, he was a 0. He was a Palmieri F- the whole rest of the year. He sucks.
Let me ask you.
He's another guy that I just want gone, banished from the planet. Get rid of him.
Good luck trying to move that contract.
But hey, you know what? Just ask him. You know what? We're going a different direction. You're not part of the plan. You going to waive that no trade clause? No.
Here's a question, by the way. Here's a legitimate question. Who is Columbus moving out now to make room for Patrick Laine?
I don't know. Maybe they let Laine go.
Maybe. I mean, there's rumors about them potentially shopping Laine, but they've got like no cap space left to sign him.
Maybe they let him go. Maybe they try to move him. Now, I don't think he's a fit for Barzal, but he can shoot the puck.
He can shoot. He's a shot generator.
I mean, I don't know what you'd have to give up for him.
An arm and a leg.
Once again, you got somebody over a barrel, though. Maybe they take Bailey and Beauvillier for Laine.
Would you trade Wallstrom for him? If they want a cheap, younger, well, he's not even much younger. He's like, what, 2 years younger?
You're going to have to give up that in draft capital.
Yeah, but he makes so much more money than Wallstrom.
That's why you're not going to have to give up draft capital. That's the thing. Draft capital is worth compensation. I'm sorry, cap capital is worth compensation, right? The difference between having Wallstrom for 10% of the price is worth something.
Wallstrom also could bust out of the league tomorrow. He's never really performed at the level where he should be or where people projected. Patrick Laine has had that track record before, even though their position isn't strong from a negotiation standpoint. He's such a good talent. You could go find somebody who has cap space elsewhere to trade a guy like that too. Okay,
now here's the thing. Let's say you signed Johnny Gaudreau and then you make a trade for Laine. I'm all for that. So we're not getting. It doesn't matter. We're not getting Patrick Laine. It doesn't matter. Not happening.
We're getting Laine, Grump.
Somehow
that was always the backup plan.
At some point during the season, Josh Bailey's going to be on the first line again. You watch. Yes. At some point in the season,
for sure.
That slimy bastard is somehow going to slither his way to playing on the first line.
Well, I mean, what do you think the line alignment is going to look like as of today? I know what it looks like today. I'll tell you.
Don't you have to play Parise with Barzal? Almost, You have to.
He's the only player who worked with him, to be honest.
And I tell you, I put Wallstrom up on the other side.
He didn't work as well. I think it's going to be Parise, Barzal, Palmieri.
Oh, God.
They're going to go back to the same Nelson line, Nelson, Lee, Beauvillier. It's going to be Pajot, Bailey, Wallstrom.
Ugh.
And then Martin, Cizikas, Clutterbuck.
Just
with your extra forwards, Kiefer Bellows, Ross Johnston.
Ugh.
That's what it's going to look like.
Doesn't it make you just want to puke? I mean, the first line, I'm like 38-year-old, Zach Parise, the F- on the other side. I'm sorry, it didn't work last year. It didn't work. I don't care that they had a 5 or 10 game stretch where they did something when the season was over. I don't care. Doesn't matter. I just the fact that Zach Parise would play on your first line tells you all you need to know about how desperately we need forwards on the first line. I'm sorry. No 38-year-old should be playing on the first line of anything, not even the beer league.
Unless it's Bergeron, in which case he should.
Yeah, but he plays center. So
yeah.
Are there any free agents?
Okay, again. So that's the one you want to go with, Bergeron?
He's the one. But he's the one exception. He's rare.
Yeah, he is.
It's rare for someone to be like that.
Hall of Fame caliber player.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He's beyond Hall of Fame. I mean, he's still a top 10 center in the league. He's crazy good.
I mean, then you look at Boston. They bringing
Krejci back.
Krejci back.
I love that.
I mean, that's a. I mean, just when you think that Boston's dead and buried,
you thought they were buried, and now they've got Bergeron, Krejci, and Zacha down the middle.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I
love that upside play on Zacha.
Yeah,
they lose Eric Haula, Grump, your favorite,
and Eric Haula had to go back. Why?
Yeah, they don't care for Eric Haula. I mean, Krejci is much better in Krejci's role than Eric
absolutely.
Haula is.
Eric Haula is a better Casey Zizekas.
They're a completely different player.
They're the same.
I think Haula has struggled. He struggled with Carolina because he's not a bottom 6 player, and he's just not a good top 6 player on a good team. I think that's the problem with him. His game is more geared toward top 6, but he's not the type of top 6 where you're going to win the cup with him.
No.
And he's kind of like in no man's land, and that's why with New Jersey, now that they don't have Gaudreau, I think they're just going to be a completely mediocre team where he might put up 50 points playing on the second line. But it's different. You put him in a checking role, and he's probably terrible.
Right. But what I'm saying is, you look at him and you look at how much Boston paid him, 2 years, $2.5 million, and you see what Casey went, a fourth liner, and he's truly a fourth liner.
Yeah.
6 years. We don't have cap money. You got $12 million. We don't have cap money. You don't have
no, they have cap money. They have cap money.
Well, no, this what fans are saying.
The excuses in
that's part of the excuse train.
In years in the past.
Part of the excuse train that just rolls through town whenever the Islanders can't do it. We don't have cap money. Well, what do you want? $80 million in cap before you can say you don't have cap money? The reason why you don't have cap money is because you sign guys like Casey Zizekas to 6-year deals when they're 30, or you sign back Kyle Clutterbuck when he's 34 years old to a 2-year deal, or you sign back Zach Parise. I don't care if he outperformed his contract last year. He's 38.
Parise takes up less cap space than anyone who would replace Parise.
I don't care. It's the mindset that
Parise saves you cap space. Okay, anyone who replaces Parise cannot possibly be cheaper than Parise.
I know Grumpy wants to stay on that damn hill.
What's the possible upside of Zach Parise as opposed to a younger player?
He provides the immediate production for the now
for a team that's not even going to make the playoffs.
That's true.
I don't need that.
You could trade him away at the deadline. Grumpy's going to have so much value. Maybe Lou didn't give him a handshake deal this year, saying no matter what happens, we're not going to move you. I wonder if Josh Bailey and Varlamov also have those little handshake deals saying you've been such a valuable Islander, Josh Bailey. We're not going to move you at the deadline if we're out of the picture.
No, but I mean, you're asking the question of what value does he bring? Like TJ said, there is no learning curve with him. There is no Connor McMichael getting scratched down the stretch and not playing in the playoffs, and we have to trade for Marcus Johansson because this kid doesn't know how to play at the NHL level yet. You don't have that. You could plug in McMichael, but Parise is going to be better and for cheaper.
Again, what's the upside for a non-playoff team?
Now, yes. Right now, there is no upside to having. If they're not going to make the playoffs, then there's no upside to it other than, like TJ said, having him as a trade chip.
But see, that's my point. I'm not signing a guy back like that to be a trade chip.
I think the signing back of him was good. It was cheap.
I just used him as an example
for the answer, but he wasn't an issue.
But I brought him up as a part of the problem that the management group has. We keep on Kyle Palmieri. Did we really need to re-sign him?
Hell no.
No. It's just like a guy 30 years old, giving him $5 million per. I'm sorry. We just didn't need to do that. And there's just so many of those things.
You could understand the logic, though, of a team going to Game 7 of the ECF and then saying to themselves, okay, if we just bring back couldn't bring back everyone because of the cap, obviously, and because of the expansion draft. If we just bring back as much of this team as possible and see what we can do here. That offseason, at least there was a little bit of logic behind it, supported in back-to-back visits to the conference final. And you could say whatever you want about, shortened season and they didn't belong there and blah, 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 blah. But at least there was something behind it. This year, there is absolutely no reason to be running it back.
That's why I didn't understand why they were hell-bent on re-signing those guys at the deadline. Why?
I thought it was because, at least in Parise's case, that Parise had an understanding that, okay, we're going to do something here. We're going to compete. We're going to be back. We're going to make upgrades. We're going to make adjustments, and you're going to want to be here for it. Otherwise, I have no idea as to why he would want to be here. Imagine what he's thinking. We're talking about Barzal. What is a guy like Parise who's never won a cup, right? And then he came to a team that went to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, a team that his dad played for, him thinking that he's going to achieve some degree of success, going on a deep playoff run, maybe even winning a cup. And now he signed back at last year's trade deadline. It had to be with the understanding that Lou was going to do something to improve the team. I can't imagine that he would have signed up for this, specifically this.
I think Lou thinks the team is improved, and that's all that was needed. That is the thing that is scary to me, and it always has been my thought process. I truly believe adding the defenseman was the move, and that was the biggest piece they needed, and that's all they're going to need to do. Everybody else, plug and play, put them right back in. We're going to be good. We just have to trust in our guys, trust in our system, and get better production out of our veterans. We didn't have it last year, but we're going to have it this year. That is what I seriously believe Lou Lamoriello subscribes to that school of thought.
This is the same GM and former head coach who said from day one, yes, we need to improve the offensive production, the offensive players on this team. Every year they say that, and they never do anything about it. I'm sorry. They're not good enough. And I don't care whatever excuse they have. They weren't good enough to win a cup. I told you at the time they were not good enough to win a cup. Every year I tell you they're not good enough to win a cup. And you want to know what we don't do any year? We never win the cup. There's a reason. The players aren't good enough. They're just not good enough. They're great guys. They all live in the same neighborhoods. They all, have parties in the backyard, have barbecues all summer long. But you know what they don't do well?
Guys in neighborhood grump.
You know what they don't do well? They don't play hockey well enough to win a Stanley Cup. That's not a crime. You just got to start getting rid of them and stop signing them back. Who's the next? I mean, I love J.G. Pajot, right? First, a second, and then a 5-year, $5 million contract. I mean,
6 years.
He's a third line center. He's
more than a third line center.
On this team, he's a third line center.
He plays third line center. He brings, how many third line centers play 18 minutes a night? None.
Probably not. 18 minutes a night.
I think he plays 18 minutes a night because he's on this team.
It's because he plays all situations, and he plays all situations well. And he's a guy who, if you watch the way they deploy him in defensive zone situations with any line late in game when they're protecting the lead. They'll put him on the second line when they're protecting the lead to take defensive zone draws and to play defense. I mean, he's more than just your simple run-of-the-mill Derek Brassard third line center.
Okay, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying because I do like him. I'm just saying, do you really want to sign a guy like that? Is it necessary to sign into a 5-year, $5 million per deal?
6 year, $5 million.
Or 6 year.
So it's even worse. Okay, so. But I mean, you're talking about you're going to have a guy till he's what, 35?
33.
Again, 33. When did he come here? Wasn't he 27? He was unrestricted.
He was 27 when he came here.
27. Okay. All right.
So
I can't
28,
add.
29, 30, 31, 32, 33.
Okay, I can't add. That's my bad.
33.
So
that's not bad.
But here's the thing. I like J.G. Pajot, but I mean, can't you see when Nelson's contract comes up, them making another offer for him at 33?
Depends who the GM is. It depends where they are. I mean,
the answer should be absolutely freaking not. You're 33. Move the fuck on. We're going to bring in some younger talent.
Jean-Gabriel Pajot, he could tell he wasn't the same guy last injury. Maybe he was still injured. He was not the same guy last year as he was years in the past.
From February and on, he was really good.
I thought that he looked like he lacked pop. He lacked explosion. He lacked the grit that Islander fans came to know and love from him.
I think from February on, you saw that explosive first step that he had, that burst. He started scoring. He started picking up a lot of scoring late in the season. I know he at one point I was on the podcast and we're like, wow, he's on pace for like 24 points this year. And then he ended up finishing with 39 and at a better than half a point a game pace.
And again, why do we feel the necessity to sign every guy 30 years and older and give them no trade or no move clauses? Those are exactly the guys you want to move. I know they want to be comfortable living on Long Island, living it up at the, in the cul-de-sac. I got it. But you know what? Sorry, this is a business. You look at the teams that are good, it's like, yeah, it's a business. You listen to Darcy Kemper today. Yeah, Colorado said, it's a business. Thank you. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. We're upgrading. Hey, Ryan McDonough, we love.
Oh no, they didn't upgrade. I don't think Georgiev's an upgrade.
I don't think he is.
They just couldn't afford him.
I'm just that's what I mean. That
right.
Yeah, I'm not saying Georgiev is better. I'm not. I don't think Kemper's that great either, to be honest with you.
He's better than Georgiev.
He is. But I'm saying then you got Tampa. McDonough. Yes, you've been part of 2 cup winners. You're a freaking warrior. You're part of the community. You're great. You're not part of the solution going forward. See you later. We know you have a no trade clause. Hey, let's waive that. Let's send you anywhere. So they have a side deal with Columbus and force his ass out. That's what we need to be, a little bit more ruthless and say, you know what? This is a business. It's not, hey, everybody, come on down to the rink, 12 o'clock today. We're going to skate, let's skate figure eights out there. No.
Getting in late.
No. It's like, come on. It's time to move on from those guys. I love Cap Friendly. It's great. And I'm like, how long can it be before the Islanders are able to make moves to become a good team? And it's 2 years away because we're stuck with all these guys, the majority of these guys, for another 2 years. You think it's bad now? You think it's bad now? Wait.
I want to ask a question that maybe leads to some positivity because there's not much today and there shouldn't be.
What team we want to start rooting for after the Islanders disband? That brings some positivity. I don't know. Go ahead. What's your question?
No, that's not what I'm going to ask. I want to ask this: unrestricted free agent wise, right? Obviously, the JT Miller trade. If you're able to get him on a cheap deal, that'd be fantastic, or cheaper than what you originally had anticipated, that'd be fantastic. But unrestricted free agent wise, who would be your next wish? Who's the wish list item for players that are still out there now, Grump and Phil?
The wish list is that they don't add anyone. I'm with Grumpy.
Yeah.
The number one wish is nobody. That's the truth.
You want to now overpay for a grade C talent?
Yeah.
Where your team is filled with grade C talents? You don't need C talent. You need A talent.
Yeah, I was going to say the only silver lining today is that they didn't make any contract mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they did well today. And I think going after, thinking that you're going to double down and go after Palat now for 6 years, $6 million, or you're going to go after Nino.
Is that what the rumor is?
He's rumored to be wanting a big deal. He was just, what did he have? 20 points in the playoffs. He was huge.
And you think Bailey's a good playoff performer? Palat,
Palat's way better. Palat, what did he have? 50 points this year, and he missed some time. And then in the playoffs, I mean, he was dynamic in the playoffs. He was the second to best forward to Kucherov. He came up clutch.
In the playoffs, he's fantastic. And really, that's the only time I watch Tampa is during the playoffs. I'm like, man, this guy's fantastic. And then you look at his regular season stats, like, where was he asleep the whole season?
You don't think, I mean, Strome just got $25 million. Trocheck just got $40 million. Okay, you don't think he's worth $40 million?
Yeah, he is.
If Trocheck is, right? And then it's just a matter of how many years you want to divide that over, right?
How old is he, Phil? Do you know how old he is?
He's 31.
Oh, if he was for the Islanders, they would have given him an 8-year extension at $7 million per. That's just a guarantee. That's exactly what they would have done. You know what Tampa says? Hey, we're here. We're in the Stanley Cup winning business. See you later. Thanks for your contributions. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
I don't know why Tampa's keeping Killorn, by the way. That's a strange one to me.
He's got one more year on his deal.
Waive him. He stinks. He can't play anymore. He can't skate. Well, those metal knees aren't holding up anymore.
Well, this will be it for him, and he's done. I mean, his thing, they knew they weren't going to be able – I guess you just keep him around because you need a body there.
He was so bad in the playoffs. Oh.
Yeah, he's shot. He's finished.
He's shot.
You know what? He's probably the Islanders' next option.
Listen, if they want to give us 2 second-round picks to take Killorn for the year, I'll take him. Right?
I don't even think they have a second next year. They got
it's
that.
the second for the next year.
Yeah,
I don't know. The Rangers are giving 24 and 25 capital to the Coyotes. All right, we'll take your 2024 draft picks. Give us Killorn. We'll throw him in Matt Martin's spot.
So now here's the thing. This is where we are as Islander fans, though. What can we smile about, in the immediate future is the Islanders not making any moves.
I'm worried. I'm seriously worried. We've had a little bit of a renaissance when it comes to our fandom. We've been miserable for years and years and years. We had this small glimpse of success, small little glimmer that we could grasp the cup. And now I'm in a spot to where a lot of people, I think, are thinking the same exact way as we are. They're looking at who's out there as an unrestricted free agent now, and they're saying, I don't want to overpay for Nazem Kadri. I don't want to overpay for Palat. I don't want to overpay for this guy. I don't want to overpay for that guy. And we're hoping we do nothing. We're hoping we stay status quo. We're hoping then after another poor season, we start selling off assets and start another rebuild. And my God.
Yeah, I mean,
that's where we are as an organization. Think about it. Here's the thing. That's what happens when you're a loser organization. You think any move you make is going to be bad. Any
UFA move that they can make now, other than 1 year, $1 million for a seventh defenseman, would be bad. I firmly believe that.
I'm not even going after a defenseman.
I wouldn't either. I would let Salo play at this point, see what he could do.
That's what it's all about for me. It's playing the youth. I mean, Lane Lambert, how long you give him? 2 years before he's gone?
I think they just gave him a 1 year deal, right?
Is that what it was? No,
I don't know if they gave him more than 1 year.
Then he's gone. Why would he take that deal?
I don't know what it was. I don't know. I thought I read somewhere it was 1 year. I could be wrong on that one. Don't quote me on that. But
he's not going to be here long, though.
Probably not. If this doesn't work out for him, no.
It's not going to work. I feel bad for him, actually. He got, who was the guy who was on the Titanic? The head guy, the Barry Trotz character. He jumped off, and the first mate had to come in and guide it down to the depths of the Atlantic. That's where he is right now.
I've never actually seen the Titanic.
What?
Yeah.
Great movie. You got to see it.
Freaking movie of all time. You've never
Great movie. You got to watch it.
Super old. I know Jack.
Super old?
It's super long. The movie's super long.
It's long, but it's good. You should watch it.
What a loser.
Oh man. We do have a few. Let me get to the ad read. I do have a few questions. I've been trying to. There's a lot of comments, and again, we always do appreciate all the comments.
Bring Barry back. Get rid of Lou. Lou sucks.
We love the comments, but
when's Lou gonna die? Those are the type of comments I'm sure. I guarantee you there are some Lou die comments in there. I guarantee it.
Yes, I'm
all
sure.
All these people wanting. I'm just looking through Twitter. All these people wanting. Oh, get Dylan Strome. Like, do not get Dylan Strome. He cannot skate.
I was intrigued by him initially, as maybe a guy, but you have to move guys out. I mean, because
you don't need it. You could probably sign him for about $2.5 million at this point.
But where would he play?
I don't know. Unless he's playing with Barzal, he's not going to do anything.
Right. He needs to play with high-end guys.
He needs to play with high-end guys. That's his problem. He's only ever produced with high-end guys, and he can't skate particularly well. He's a big body. He's like a worse Anders Lee.
So he's like
younger.
So he's a below average Anders Lee?
He's a below average Anders.
Okay.
He's a below average Anders. Skates just as well as him with less hockey IQ. And he's a Strome. I don't know. You had one Strome who the Rangers didn't want to bring back. You had two Stromes. Philly didn't even want to qualify their Strome, and he was at league minimum, and you stash him in the AHL. Chicago didn't want to qualify their Strome. They're just a bunch of Stromes.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Chicago is just saying, dump everyone.
Yeah.
I thought it was strange.
Let's go for Bernard. Or whatever.
Bedard. No one wanted Strome at $3.6 million. I guess he's going to make less than that, because otherwise the team would have traded a pick to pay him that.
Yeah.
Surprising.
Today's sponsor is brought to you by DraftKings. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can fuel your fandom and feel the heat of this season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet up to $1,000. And if you don't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all the major action for baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your bet options feel endless. I wonder if you can bet if Lou Lamoriello is going to make any deals to acquire anybody or make any free agent acquisitions. I wonder if that's worthwhile looking into. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN to make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes in the description for additional details.
Woo! Nice ad read. Nice little ad lib there in the middle. Usually you bungle those.
I more wanted to hit this second portion here for Scott L's comment. If they try to trade, it looks like Gaudreau, it's another wasted free agency day by Lou. Now that Gaudreau is going to Columbus, I bet Lou has no plan B, C, or D. He never does. If he tries to trade for Tarasenko, it will cost a lot more than it would have last summer when he could have gotten him for basically peanuts. Get ready for another over the hill, past their prime third or fourth liner. Kind of two items I draw from this. Again, more people noticing they don't really have plan B, C, or D in line. And do you think a guy like Tarasenko would be in the cards for the Islanders to make a move for a guy like that?
St. Louis isn't trading him.
I wasn't sure if they were interested in moving him or not.
No, he hasn't rescinded his trade request, but they're not moving him. They don't have to. They just lost Perron, so you're not going to lose 27 goals and all of a sudden trade a point per game guy. If you are, you're going to want to trade for a guy who can help you now. Maybe trade him for JT Miller. Other than that, probably not.
Yeah. Why would they move him? He probably had the best. I think it was the best year of his career overall this year. I mean, you don't move a guy. He's 1 year left on his deal, 7.5 per. I thought we should have traded for him last offseason. Nope. Didn't do that. Why? That would have meant being a little proactive. We don't want to waste your time doing stuff like that.
It would have been a waste of time, though.
Yeah, we weren't going to make the playoffs anyway, but
no,
we would have been more fun to watch.
It would have been more fun to watch, but we wouldn't have made the playoffs.
But here's the thing. When you don't make the playoffs and you're boring,
there's a lot of
– that's turning the TV on and off, changing the channel, whatever you want to call it. That's old school, as opposed to click, click, click. Oh,
yeah.
Whatever it is.
I mean, on DraftKings, maybe they have a place you could wager how quickly the TVs are going to turn off for the season opener against Florida. I'd guess about 7 minutes in. 7 minutes in, they'll be up 3 goals already. Because not only are they going to play bad, but Sorokin really struggled against Florida last year. I think he gave up. They pulled him after 4 goals in one period, and then I think the first game against them, he gave up 5.
I think we'll be better defensively next year. I do. Regardless of the forward group, I think we'll be better defensively. And here's the thing. I was going to say middle of the first period. You said 7 minutes. There's your over and under.
Yeah. I wonder what the empty seats are going to look like, too, in the arena. I wonder how bad that's going to be. The Goodwin
I hope
guy,
they kept the cardboard cutouts.
Good gracious. We're only going to sell in the bottom dome. We're not going to sell in the top area. The good guy wins says here, I can't blame Lou necessarily. We didn't have that much cap space. We still need to sign back Dobson and Romanoff. He didn't have to play. He didn't have much to play with. Basically, it's JG's Johnny Gaudreau for going to Siberia of the NHL. It's on Johnny Gaudreau more than it is on Lou Lamoriello.
Okay, again, if they wanted to, they could sign Dobson and Romanoff to peanut deals. I mean, they're restricted free agents. They're going nowhere. It doesn't matter. Now all they have is them, Bellows. That's
peanut
it.
Deal. Yeah.
I mean, if they wanted to, those guys could total, if they wanted to, cost what, $5 million a year? If they wanted to, they could lowball them. We had $12 million in cap. We have cap. And guess what? All you got to do is dump some shit into the ocean, and we have a lot more cap. Look at how much goalies we're getting moved for. Try to tell me Varlamov is not better than Matt Murray at this stage of his career. Or
goalies were teams are hungry for goalies this offseason.
Okay, but Matt Murray wasn't traded for something; he was traded with something.
I mean,
that was a cap dump. They traded a third and a seventh with him.
But
I feel like you look at what Georgiev got back in return. What was it? 2/3 and a fourth.
2/3 and a fifth. Yeah,
2/3 and a fifth. Georgiev's a fraction of the goalie that Varlamov is. Maybe Georgiev can regain some of that prowess he once had when his early days for the Rangers, when they thought he was, all that in a can of whiz. But I mean, Varlamov offers you a much better chance to win now on a manageable 1-year deal left.
Yeah, I think Colorado's taking a risk with Georgiev in net.
Huge risk. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't even know if he's going to be the starter. I know they like Francouz.
Ugh, he's been up and down forever.
He's up and down, but he's fine.
I will say that Georgiev will play against us twice next year and probably shut us out both times.
Could be. Also, Colorado could be a really good trade destination for Varlamov at the trade deadline to win a cup.
I just don't see them. You know what? Maybe they'll give Varlamov a contract extension. Give another 4 years contract extension. Why not? What the hell, right?
I think this is one too where we're kind of wondering about going into the future, right? This team is a goddamn travesty. Kiss Barzal's ass goodbye. Why would he stay? If we don't make the playoffs this year, we assume we're going to be doing some sort of ramped up rebuild or significant retool. We're going to have some sort of change in general manager. There's going to be I would like to see significant change. I said that this last offseason and there hasn't, but if we don't make the playoffs right, I assume there's going to be significant moves. Does Matt Barzal want to stick around for something like that?
Go ahead, Phil.
If he doesn't, then you get a top 10 pick in next year's draft, another first-round pick, and maybe something else. That's what you do. You look at what they got for DeBrincat. You could probably get a little bit more for Barzal because he's a centerman, right? So top 10 pick in a really good draft, a first-round pick in the next year's draft, and something else. That's what you do. You have to.
At that point in time, it's blow it up, though, isn't it?
Probably, yeah.
I mean,
try to keep the defense in core. Try to keep the defense intact. Try to draft young forwards and.
Yeah, I mean, hope that some young forwards like Ratu and DeFore are better than we think they are. That's it. But you can't go into a situation where Barzal is going to simply sign a qualifying offer and leave. Whether you plan on blowing it up or adding or doing whatever you want, you just can't do it.
Right.
You just can't.
It's the end of the franchise when that happens.
Matt R says, okay, we can discuss the draft now. Fans are already ready to give up on the season. That's kind of more why I wanted to pop that up. D-Cut says, open the phone lines. We will on Saturday, D-Cut. We'll open them up on Saturday. Anthony R says, thank you, Grump. No free agents want to come here. We are not a desirable place. Name a top free agent in the last 10 years that signed with us instead of another team.
Okay. Name a top free agent since free agency came into the league, 30 years. We've never had one. Not once. We are not a destination that we're just not desirable. Sorry. But you know what I hate hearing? The Islanders are a small market team. That is horseshit. They play in New York. I mean, how many miles is it from anywhere the Islanders have played to Madison Square Garden? Even when they're at the Coliseum, what was it, 30 miles? Don't tell me that you're a small market team. That's horseshit. Just ridiculous. I hate that. You're not Columbus. You're not Seattle. You're not Nashville. You're New York.
I think the problem is
the Mets like to cry that too. Oh, we're a small market team. Dude, you're 8 miles from Yankee Stadium. Don't tell me you're a small market team. You got small market mentality.
It's different in baseball. They don't have a salary cap, or they don't have a hard salary cap. You just pay the luxury tax, right?
Yeah.
So here, I mean, you can't pay Max Scherzer $40 million a year to come to the Islanders, whatever it is. But yeah, we're not a desirable destination. And the only other thing you could have going for you technically is being someone's whole hometown team. Like, I'm sure Sonny Milano probably wants to sign with us. He's better than Bailey. But outside of having a Long Island kid of Adam Fox's caliber. And when they're from Long Island, they're all Ranger fans. The good kids are all Ranger fans. Charlie McAvoy, he's from Long Beach, he's a Ranger fan. Adam Fox, he's from Jericho, he's a Ranger fan. So all the people from us, right? You had pictures today of Giroux's going back to Ottawa, and Johnny Gaudreau wants to go back to Philadelphia, and Tavares went back to Toronto, and then they had a little cute picture of Andrew Kopp with his Detroit Red Wings jersey when he was 5 years old or whatever. We have no kids other than Sonny Milano. That's it. The kids who are Islander fans, they're average at hockey at best.
Didn't Mike Kazmarek, I think that was his name, used to play for Montreal. I think he was a big Islanders fan. Maybe we'll bring him back. I think he's been retired for 15 years. Bring him back.
But maybe Milano will be the big ad. They bring home Milano.
That's not happening. We're not getting anyone. No one's coming here.
Jay brings up a good point. He says, do not make a desperate face-saving move with a disastrous contract.
True.
AKA, do not make a knee-jerk reaction now because after day one, we've missed out on our targets, and we're up a creek without a paddle, and then we're going to oversign and overpay for a guy who's mediocre talent. We're going to pay him like he's an elite or a high-end guy.
True.
Cannot do that. That's right, Jay. But he says, I hate myself for believing all the hype today, thinking Gaudreau would really become an Islander.
Okay, you want to know what I did today?
What's that?
When it was rumored that the Devils and the Islanders were in it. Oh, those are the two teams. I said that I felt there's going to be a third team. I just did. I felt there would be a third team would come in because no one wants to play for the Devils. Even Palmieri didn't want to play there, and Zajac and Zach Parise. Any of the shit that plays for the New Jersey Devils, that dumpster fire of a franchise. And then you got the Islanders where no one's ever playing there. We're just, like I said, use them to bump up the price. That's all agents do. Yeah, Lou, bump it up. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, you got a shot. Yeah, this is what the Islanders are offering. We'll give you a penny more. Oh, we're going. That's the way it works. So, but for a second, I said, you know what? I'm going to try to. What I was going to work on was put a little bit of line combinations together. Gaudreau, Barzal, who would be the guy on the other side? Would we maybe get somebody else through free agency? What would the rest of the lines look? That lasted for about 5 minutes, and I said, why am I wasting my time on this? And I just stopped, and I'm glad I did because I could have been racking my brain for an hour or two getting perfect line combinations that were never going to happen.
But it's the hope. It's the hope that brings the enthusiasm to it because
we are this franchise is this freaking close to being in the olden days where come December we're studying up all the film on guys in the draft. We're this freaking close. You think I'm lying to you? We're not. We're this close.
If they can get Bedard, I think Bedard is the play at this point. Generational talent.
Jesus, now we're already tank for Bedard.
I think I'm gonna change my Twitter handle to tank for Bedard.
No, we got to come up with something better. 2022 is a canard. Let's get Bedard, something like that.
Whatever. I'll have you make the T-shirts for it, the art.
There it is, Grump. There it is. I was about to say the Grumpy's Groupies still work, but the Bavarian, the Vets, they've got to go, Grump.
Well, no, we can wear that when he gets another job somewhere else. Guts their farm system.
Brian P says Lou has given up 3 first-rounders for Kyle Palmieri, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Alexander Romanov, 2 third-liners, and a number 4 defenseman. He's freaking terrible.
Might as well
and that's also a second as well in there.
And a 4th.
We got a 4th.
Okay, play it out. Play it out like this. Take those picks, make those draft picks. They're worse off now than they are without that. I mean, the point is, right, take Ridley Greig, take Chase Stillman, take Frank Nazar. Are they competing anytime soon for anything? No.
But
certainly not.
But they have an opportunity to compete with those guys. Where this team right now, we're so screwed because we have no one who can come up from the minors to actually fill any of those crappy spots.
I think Ratu is probably better than all 3 of those players now.
Potentially. I want to see him a full year in the A.
And he'll get it this year. But I think, and that's what I liked about Zarnik leaving, because now you're not going to have a center clogging up the top 6 minutes there.
Yeah.
That was, another small silver lining.
I mean, but you think about it. When was the last time we had a first-round draft pick? Simon Holmstrom doesn't count because he was not a first line. He's not a first round talent. Was not
Dobson and Wallstrom.
Dobson and Wallstrom. Think about that. It's like 100 years ago.
2018.
Ugh.
2018. 2017, we didn't have one either.
Yeah, it's like
we traded it because we had Andrew Ladd.
And you wonder why our team is what it is.
2016, we didn't have one either. I don't count Kiefer Bellows.
He's probably going to be starting for this team this year. You better.
I don't think he will be. Where's he going to play?
I don't know, but I'm going to. Yeah, I think Lambert will at least give him a shot. He had no shot if Trotz was here.
Honestly, whoever plays best in camp should start. That's kind of the point where I am. If I see somebody playing well in camp and somebody doesn't, I don't care if it's Kyle Palmer or Anders Lee. It doesn't matter who it is who plays poorly. Sit their ass. It's a short-term item to show we're serious. Best players play. Go out and make a statement like that as a head coach, even if it's only short-term for 2 or 3 games, and you reconstitute back up the original lineups. But just to show, like, oh, crap, Lane Lambert is an assistant coach. Now that he's in charge of the lineups, yeah, there's no more of the dogging or floating it. I can actually get a healthy scratch. I can get scratched. When Anders Lee struggled all season long, most coaches in the NHL would say, yeah, you're getting a healthy scratch, buddy. Clear your head or do this differently, do that differently. It will be nice to see some of that from our team, but it may be all.
What do you think the mental health days were?
Was that?
What did you think the mental health days were for Lee? I don't know. He disappeared for 3 games, and they said he had personal matters to tend to. I don't know what that was.
I forgot he even missed games, to be honest.
He missed a bunch of games. I mean, he took 3 random games where it was just he's unavailable due to personal whatever.
I honestly didn't remember that.
Actually, he missed a lot of games. Just most of the time he was on the ice when he was playing like that.
That was coming.
No, it was too easy.
No, he had 4 COVID games also.
I do have a quick question for you before we go to this comment. In the whole Islanders organization, I'm not saying them. I'm going to leave out anybody on the big team. With the exception of Barzal and maybe Wallstrom, is there anyone else on the roster that you feel, man, we really got to lock those guys up long term?
I don't think we need to lock Wallstrom up long term.
Did you say Sorokin? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I did not say Sorokin. So
yes,
I think you meant Dobson, not Wallstrom, right?
I assume we're going to lock up Dobson.
Okay.
So I'm just saying going forward, like, because Sorokin should definitely be one, Barzal, and maybe Wallstrom. Is there anybody else on the team?
Maybe Romanov, but we have to see. I'd put Romanov in the same boat as Wallstrom.
I think yes for him.
Yeah.
All right. You're shooting down my whole argument. Okay. I just assume we're going to sign Romanov back. I just do. But like in the next year or two, and I'm assuming Dobson as well. Barzal, Sorokin, and Wallstrom. That's really it. I can't see anybody else on our team where you say, this is a guy that is maybe potentially a core piece going forward that we haven't locked up.
Right.
That's bad.
Right. You essentially have 5 young pieces on the roster.
That's bad. That's bad. That's really bad. That's terrible. And we have maybe one guy in the minors. One. Ratu. That's it. No one else in the minors.
Don't talk about Simon Holmstrom like that.
I don't have to talk about him. He's the worst. Okay. He was so bad. I mean, I was stunned, flabbergasted how poor he was. I'm like, this guy sucks.
I watched that game. I thought he was fine.
He was terrible.
He had the game-winning goal, and then he had the game-winning goal again. He had 2 game-winning goals in the same game.
Yeah, I watched. I'm like, and I'm serious. I thought about you. I'm like, I said, you know what? The know-nothing fans, and I'm glad you're one of them, Phil, are going to say, well, gosh, look, he scored the game-winning goal. He set up the tying goal. He was so bad in that game because all I did was watch the young guys who I thought maybe, possibly, potentially might make the big league roster.
He's going to make it. I have faith in Simon.
I think he'll make it just to save face. This is what's going to happen. Bailey, after next year, they're going to slide him out when that contract's up and put Holmstrom right in that same spot. It'll just be like 30 years of misery for that particular spot on the lineup because I automatically hate that kid. I've seen him play. He sucks.
Well, who do you think is the first center call-up this year? The center goes down. Who's the first center call-up? I hope it's Ratu,
I doubt it.
but it's going to be Koivula.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I'm
Koivula.
so upset that they re-signed Koivula. Ugh.
I don't know why he. I don't know why he resigned.
Honestly, I'm shocked he resigned. I'm shocked he didn't
Me
go
too.
back to play in Europe. It didn't make any sense.
I mean,
2-year contract, right?
I think the second year is fully guaranteed, though. It's I think the second year is a one-way.
I mean, at this point, right?
What's
He's
the point?
he's at best a fourth line center, right? At best.
Not even, because he can't even forecheck. He can't.
No,
He's
I'm
so
saying
slow.
I'm just saying at
Yeah,
best.
skill level wise, yeah.
He's a fourth line center. So like if Nelson goes down or Pajot goes down, he can only play on the fourth line. It's not like put him in there in the scoring role. No, he can't do that. So you're going to have the human injury is going to have to slide up from the fourth line and play other minutes.
Right.
I mean, just think about that.
No, when I was going through scenarios going into today, I had no expectation of Goudreau, but I thought maybe we'll make a couple moves, maybe Perron, whatever. I was looking at next year and trying to identify the pieces that would most easily be able to be moved off. Right. The number one person was Pajot. Right. Pajot's going to have 3 years left. If he has a good season, 3 years left at $5 million, very portable contract. Right. With a 40-point season, you can move that anywhere. That's on his trade list, which is I think 15 teams, 16 teams, whatever it is. No, but you could move him anywhere at that point. And then hopefully Ratu would be ready. And there's your ELC guy, because at some point you got to get more ELCs up. That was the one that I really identified. So I would at least hope that if he's showing it in the AHL, that there's going to be injuries. There's always injuries. I'm hoping that he at the very least gets to show what he could do. And even if it's on the wing, they don't really have any wingers down in Bridgeport. Michael Del Cole's gone now, right? They didn't qualify him.
William DeFore.
They're not gonna call him up at all.
He's got to learn how to skate.
Wayne Gretzky. I've heard him compared to all of them, all the greats.
Yeah, I mean the winger call-ups this year. Watch it be Andreov. I need to watch my mouth here. It's going to be Andreov, right?
Andreov, and let me tell you something. Andreov is okay.
You need a guy like that in the AHL. No, you need to have veterans who know how to play in order that they could. You don't want 3 20-year-olds who have no idea what they're doing against a veteran team. You need to have guys who could show them what to do, but you don't want those guys called up to the NHL.
We lost Jarnac. He could have been a guy who came up. What about Richard Panik?
That's what I thought they were going to trade him today. They loaned him out to Chicago. He won a Calder Cup. He counts for $250 against the cap, which obviously isn't very significant. But I have no idea what the hell's going to be with that guy this year.
I mean, we're terrible. I'm sorry. I hate to be the harbinger of doom here, but it's like we've done absolutely nothing to improve this team. Nothing. I was so excited. I even said to TJ, he called me up. I'm like, hey, if we get Gaudreau, you got to say, what grade do you give this offseason? TJ said an A-. I said B+. And now that he's not coming.
Hold on. Think about Grumpy standards. If we get Romanov, a guy who's, bona fide top 4 defenseman, and you get an elite winger, a guy like Johnny Gaudreau, and you bring those guys in on one offseason, Grumpy gives it a B+.
By the way, I'm with Grumpy also on that.
Right? But now what do you give him? Where it's just Romanov.
F-.
No, not an F- because I like Romanov. I think that's a good move. I mean, I'd say probably a C- or a C.
I was going to go D+.
I mean, because the defense had to be fixed first. It just had to.
Yeah.
It just had to.
And by the way, anything that they can do in UFA now will deduct points. It just will,
yes.
Right? Like shedding Josh Bailey to bring in Nino for 5 years more than what you have for Josh Bailey. That's gonna knock it down a grade. It just will. Like we upgraded. We just got. I can see it right now. We signed Andre Palat, 6 years, $6 million. This is exceptional. No, it's not. No, it isn't.
No. Now, here's the thing. If you brought Gaudreau in and you added Palat to play on that line, that's a legit first line.
Because that's an A+ offseason.
See, there you go. But that's why I always felt you needed to add a stud, and then a B-level guy, and they got the defense figured out. Then I'm like, okay, now we have a shot. Right now, I mean, I look at what Detroit did, Ottawa, Buffalo. Man, oh, man.
What did Buffalo do? Buffalo didn't do anything.
I just like what Buffalo's done this offseason.
They've done nothing.
I don't know.
They've,
Well, like I said, it's better than what
a
we've
bunch of
done.
ham and eggers, as you would
Still
say.
better than what we've done. I just think
they signed Lubushkin for $275. They brought back their RFAs. They didn't do anything. I'm impressed with
Buffalo's going to
Ottawa.
improve. I think Buffalo's going to improve.
They should just organically, because some of their younger guys are going to get better. When I look at Ottawa, when I look at Detroit, more Ottawa than Detroit. Who's playing defense for Ottawa?
I don't know.
Shabbat.
They didn't have a problem scoring last year, but who's on the blue line there? At least with Detroit, they brought in Oli Mata. They brought in Sherrod, who I don't particularly think is good. I think that's a pretty horrible contract, but he's big and physical, and there's some qualities there that an NHL GM loves because you always want a defender with size. But I look at Ottawa and I say to myself, their goaltending is Talbot, who's okay at best, and a one-hit wonder, in my opinion, with Anton Forsberg. Other than Shabbat, who's not great defensively, they don't really have any good, solid defensive defensemen. And they have a pretty elite top six.
Do you want to know the worst part of Detroit signing these players? The absolute worst part of Detroit trying to get better.
That I mentioned that Detroit was going to make the playoffs
next year? TJ got to listen to his freaking mouth all year. If Detroit goes on a 4-game winning streak, how we're going to have to hear like all those players are in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, but
Stanley Cup
TJ's premise was not that they were going to go out and sign 6 UFAs. In fairness to you, Grumpy, TJ's whole premise is they're going to bring in this guy from Linkoping and this guy from Siberia and this guy who's playing out in Bermuda, and they've got prospects all over, and it's going to be a bunch of 14-year-olds who are going to come and tear. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of any of these people. And this is proof to the fact that Grumpy is right, that Yzerman had absolutely no faith in any of these kids, and he just imported half a roster today.
You do realize that that's not how he's going to be selling that come midseason if they're any good.
I'm telling you.
But TJ should take no solace in Andrew Kopp and David Perron and Dominic Kubalik tearing it up at some point during the season, because that is not what you had.
The guys who are going to be tearing up are Lucas Raymond, Mo Cedar, and you got Johan Albertson. Those are going to be the guys.
Johan Albertson is not going to be on the roster.
You don't think Albertson's going to make the roster?
No. They just brought in 6 veterans who are going to block these guys for the next 4 years. That's all they did.
I loved the Andrew Kopp signing there.
Great signing, a hometown kid, a good two-way player, and an excellent penalty killer. Why not?
And I was not a fan of Perron, but for 2 years, absolutely.
A+.
I just thought because Phil mentioned, for those who don't know, Phil mentioned Perron to the Islanders, but I'm thinking they're going to have to give him a 5-year deal or a 4-year deal. And I'm like, no, I was totally not for that. Now, here's the thing. If he was your B guy with a Gaudreau as your A guy, I was okay with, not for 5 years. I was surprised he only got 2. I really was. I'm glad.
You think that would have just been okay? Gaudreau with Perron for 2 years would just be okay?
No, I would be okay with that.
One of the clutchest playoff performers of the decade is just okay.
Not for 4, but
not for 4, right?
The 2.
I messaged that to TJ. I said to TJ,
Perron. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
I said to TJ, if you get Perron on 2 years, that's a no-brainer. If it has to be 3, you do it anyways. For 2 years,
thought we were going to have to give 4. I really thought we were going to have to give a 4-year contract up. When I saw 2 years, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
My God. You're right. I mean, the deal he got was a sweetheart deal. Makes me jealous. It makes me envious. Mark R., I don't want to bring this up. Do you think it was more the fact that we did not up our offer to match the Devils' offer, or was it just plain and simple, he wanted to go to Columbus and that was that?
Sometimes I think they do things for show, to show the fan base. And this way all the cartel can report, well, the Islanders made a push. You're going to see. Well, he took less money to go to Columbus than he did that he could have signed for the Islanders. No one really knows, first of all. No one knows. But he didn't sign for a king's ransom at Columbus. So what were you really offering?
You think this makes the fan base happier? I don't think it does.
I think
if that's what they were trying to accomplish.
There are comments that go out there and say, Lou gave it his all. He did a good. We're not going to show those, just like I'm not going to show the fire Lou tweets because we got a million comments. But there are comments out there that say Lou gave it his all, and he just came up short. Lou did a good job. He put forth a good effort. There are comments. There are people who do think that.
There are a lot of fans.
I'm going to say we probably don't have many of those listeners, but there are fans out there, I'm sure, who think that.
I mean, but seriously, that's what a lot you're going to see in the papers tomorrow, wherever you get your news, the internet, whatever. You're going to, well, it used to, in the old days, it used to be the paper, right? The Washington, New York Post, the Newsday, Daily News, whatever. You're going to see, you know what? The Islanders immediately made an effort to sign Johnny Gaudreau. He took less money to go to Columbus than it would have been to come to Long Island. You know what? To me, that's an even bigger problem. Because if you took less money to go play for Columbus, what does it say about your franchise?
When it was Panarin, it wasn't as bad for me. Well, number one, because they had just had their first playoff series win, in the Trotz era, and that was a pretty good season. But there was no one after Panarin that was worth signing at that point on the open market. There was no second winger. It wasn't like we just wasted all this time with Panarin and now we missed out on options B, C, D, E. There was nothing. It was either you're going to sign Panarin, bring back Lee, or neither. There was no other way to allocate that money. What's so frustrating now is there was so much opportunity that they missed out on. That's the problem with it.
But for me, part B of that issue is you got so many forwards signed to long-term deals. You have to move guys out before you can bring anybody in. It has to happen.
You could do it afterward. You could bring the guy in and then move the player out.
I mean, you're not going to have 18 forwards signed to long-term deals on this team. And that honestly,
not 18, but I'm saying if you add one player, then you just move one player out afterward.
You're
not gonna start moving people out before you know you got the bird in the hand.
I would, because I hate those guys. That was the last time I fell for the banana in the tailpipe. Was Panarin.
Panarin, right?
Oh man, that was it. Never again. Never again. Never, never, ever. That's why today I'm like, we're not getting him.
Yeah, but I mean, again, there was legitimately no one after. Every other contract that was signed was pretty much a bad contract.
Yeah.
State of Survival says, why would we be looking at JT Miller or Kadri if we already have enough centers? JT Miller plays wing. Would we have traded a center if successfully we were to trade for a guy like JT Miller? I think it would involve a guy like Anthony Beauvillier plus.
They played Miller on Horvat's wing for most of the season last year.
I mean, yeah, you could kick him out to wing, or you could kick Brock Nelson. I think Brock Nelson is more of a winger anyway, honestly. You kick him out to wing.
You put Miller with Barzal, and there's no reason why both of them wouldn't be point per game.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Even though Miller's overrated.
Brian J says the season ticket holders got finesse. They did. I feel bad. Honestly, we talk every year about who we feel bad. I hope you did not renew your season tickets just quite yet. I hope you waited. Maybe you can get yourself a cheaper deal. I don't know how that works. Can you go ahead and say my credit card bounced?
I check. You want to know who's got the toughest job on the planet?
The season ticket salesman.
That's right.
Unbelievably tough.
The guys who have to call up, hey, you're going to renew your season tickets. Oh man, that's a phone call you don't want to make, right? I mean, some of those phone calls you just don't want to make. That's one of them.
And those people too, when they're calling up, they had no control at all over what the team did.
Nothing.
And here they are, just like my job. They were following today's events even closer than the fans. They woke up as soon as they could. They started reading everything Drager and LeBron were putting out. As soon as 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time hit, they sat on Twitter. Refresh. I need to see what the Islanders are doing. And they are the people who are going to be drinking themselves to sleep tonight.
Okay, you want to know? I'm going to give you another person whose job that these guys are like now. They're like Roger Goodell from the NFL. They're just meat shields for the upper management's incompetence. That's all they are. They just have to eat it. I mean, it's going to be tough for them. It really is. I hope they get a bonus for having to go through that.
I thought about a move I would make. There's one move I would make.
Okay,
and it wouldn't cost a lot to acquire him. Yusei Puljujärvi from Edmonton.
Ooh.
Oh man.
I don't mind a cheap reclamation project. See if you could squeeze something out of there.
Man,
his underlying numbers are very good. He's very good defensively. there's more good that happens with him on the ice than without him on the ice. More good than bad. Something like that. Meaning, I'm not saying it needs to be Puljujärvi, but if there is a cheap reclamation project available that you could plug in somewhere this season and see if, okay, we've got a 3 overall pick from 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and maybe a change of scenery will do him good away from the high pressure expectations of Edmonton. That's something that you could entertain this summer. I'm not saying it's going to get you anywhere, but if that works out for you, then you've got another young piece.
Doesn't that remind you of the 1990s Islanders? Well, those are the type of guys we take for John Sim, or
Johnson is not 1990s.
He was 2000s, Grump.
He was 2000s.
Whatever. When in the dark times, right?
I'm thinking Michael Grabner.
Yeah.
Well, Mark R. did bring up a good point. Honoring the 50th anniversary of the team, we're going to be playing like the 1972-73 team.
I love that.
Oh, man.
I'll laugh my ass
Gosh,
off.
man, that's going to be tough, this 50th anniversary stuff. They're going to have to roll all the old guys out. All of them.
Honestly, if you're a salesman and a season ticket holder, it has to be the pitch of nostalgia. The 50th year. You're going to get so much merchandise and so many things that you'll never be able to get ever again.
Going to be Islander legends at every game. Meet Brian Trottier.
Yeah.
Meet Gordy Lane. Meet Dave Langevin. Hey, Chico Resch, bring him and his rug back.
They're going to have to be wheeling out. They're going to have to be wheeling out the old Islanders, the Islanders of yesteryear, quite a few times this year.
Let's have a couple of Mike Bossy appreciation nights. Clark Gillies.
We're going to have a Meet Butch Goring day. Butch Goring, we're going to take you from out of the booth, and you're going to be perpetually just down there meeting the fans.
Hey, nobody's here today in the stands. Let them all come up and do an intermission show. Come up and do a little bit of play-by-play.
Then the real gut punch. The real gut punch is going to be when Sam Rosen announces before the season that he's retiring, and then MSG decides that they're going to put Brendan as the new Rangers play-by-play.
Oh my God,
that would be the squeeze of the nuts. Sam Rosen, he's done. He's over the hill. He's retired. But MSG has this other guy on MSG Plus who's a rising star, and Dolan is going to say, "You're on my payroll. You're going to start calling games for my team."
Oh boy, how bad would that be?
That would be. I'm almost wishing for it. I'm wishing for it just because.
See, Phil, he's coming over to the dark side.
I am on the dark side. But you could see that, right? You could see that happen.
Absolutely,
totally feasible. Whenever it might not be this season, but whenever Sam Rosen retires, Dolan's going to switch him to his team. That's all.
I mean, he does a great job. Brendan does, and I think he's highly vied after. Zampa says here, Bailey 1,000 games and only 176 goals for his career. Yes, he is our savior. Not just a little good old Josh Bailey shit on his day type of thing. Who doesn't love that? Michael T says, hey guys, is there any truth to the rumors that the Russian players are going to have problems re-entering the States? So people may have seen, we'll just mention this briefly, there were worries about Alexander Romanov not returning. He was offered a contract by KHL. I messaged Phil. I said, oh, what's going on with this? Phil was Johnny on the spot with that one and said they do that with every single one of the Russian players. They did with Kirill Kaprizov, items like that. But Romanov is already back in the United States. I think he's in Florida, and I don't think there's going to be any issue with Sorokin. So I don't think there's any worry or need to worry about that, Michael T. Out of all the things we've got to worry about, that should be the bottom of the list. Jimmy S. says here, when does free agency end?
It ended at 12 o'clock this afternoon.
TJ, I just sent you a message. I don't know if Grumpy saw this one, but someone made a tremendous point about why we should believe in Romanov. I know everyone was all over his social media because his wife announced that they came back into the country. They're hanging out in Florida. And then I guess people were getting a little bit carried away. And someone made a really good point as to why you shouldn't doubt Romanov. I don't know if Grumpy saw that.
I've not seen it.
Grumpy, it says, is anybody still doubting Romanov, Grump? Oh, shit. Hold on. They're not going to do the pictures right. And they show his wife over here.
Wow.
They're asking, is anybody doubting Romanov? You know how they do in the what was it? What movie was it where they had it. Was it Trouble with the Curve or something like that? One of those baseball movies where they're drafting somebody and this highly rated baseball prospect. He's like, oh yeah, his girlfriend's not hot or his girlfriend's not attractive. He's very attractive looking guy and his girlfriend's not attractive. It means he's got confidence issues.
Right.
And the team who drafted him, like the guy flunked out and he wasn't good at all. And like I can't remember what movie that was, but they make a somewhat clairvoyant point that kind of had a little bit of humor with it as well.
Okay, you want to know a true story? This is a true story.
Yeah, tell me a true story.
All right. When I was coaching Little League Baseball.
Oh my God. I've heard this. I've heard these stories before. Jesus Christ. Maybe this is not one you should be sharing on the podcast, but if you want to, go ahead.
I don't care. It's the truth. I wasn't the only guy who was doing it, by the way.
Doesn't make it right.
You draft talent at the top, but when you get towards the end, you try to look at, okay, what's the appeal of some of these players? We always look at the moms. I mean, if they got a hot mom, okay, I'm going to use my last draft pick on somebody who's got the hot mom. I don't care the kid can't play at all. We got the.
That's why your team always had an uphill climb. You were worried about in the later rounds, not drafting the best players, Grump.
Well, at the
end, general manager, Grump. That sounds like something Lou.
I wasn't getting paid for that gig. That was my payment.
I have no concerns about Romanov anymore. None. Zero. Yeah, he's gonna do great things.
I think he is too. I think honestly, I think he's the perfect pickup.
Complete package. He has everything. He's bringing precious cargo with him.
Yep.
Matthew C says Stevie Wyatt is a better general manager than Lou these days. I think we would agree with that. No,
I mean it's been for a while now.
There are so many better GMs than Lou Lamoriello. So many.
Not Chris Drury.
No, I'm talking about Brisebois. I think Bill Guerin. I think Bill Guerin's a better GM.
Is he?
At Minnesota. Yeah. I liked him as a player. So
I don't know. I think he's getting way too much credit way too soon. Let's see. I don't know. I don't see the brilliance yet in putting a $15 million dead cap hit for 4 years on your books. I mean, maybe it's going to work out for him. I just don't see it.
You know what? Here's what I liked. Those guys are not going to be part of the solution. We're going to bite the bullet, move their asses out. We're looking for solutions here, not somebody just continues with the problem. Whoever signed them to those original deals, talking about Parise and Suter, that was the guy who should be taken out back and shot.
He sold a lot of tickets. I'm sure the owners are very happy with him.
Well, there you go. We need to sell some tickets.
John Smith says, Phil, spot on. Bravo. I'll show always the good ones too.
That's probably where he agreed with me.
Gungun says, Grumpy, does the situation stink?
We're in trouble. We've said it. The lean times are upon us, my friends.
We said the fall from the fall from grace would be hard and fast. And
you know what I feel worse for?
But I'm more upset about it because I felt it was preventable.
Everything,
meaning with the right moves, I didn't think it needed to be that. Okay, we're married to this roster and we can't make any changes. Of course, you can make changes. I think it's just the problem is they decided to continue to live in it.
Every situation that's gone wrong for this team has been preventable. Every single one. It's not like we drafted somebody and they died in a car accident and it set our franchise back. No,
that's signed happened before, hasn't it? No, in baseball,
the Rangers had that. The Rangers had a really good prospect who got killed in Russia, right?
Yeah.
No, he just dropped dead. He didn't get killed. He just died.
Yeah. I mean, but it's not like something like that, right? It's the fact that we put ourselves in these situations with our terrible decisions for re-signing older players. It hamstrings you going forward. It just does. Mm-hmm. And it's not like any of those guys were stars. It's not like, okay, Malkin, and let's be honest, Malkin got too much term and too much money, but he's Malkin and he's been there forever. Letang, these guys are great players. Not one of the guys that we've signed to long-term deals is a great player. We have some good players, some
Brock
okay
Nelson
ones.
is a great player.
Who was?
Brock Nelson, great player, fantastic player.
His mom doesn't even think that.
Good gracious. Tariq says here, could a trade for Tarasenko still be in the works? I put maybe 4%, if that.
What do we have? What do we have that St. Louis wants?
Nothing.
They think they're competing for a cup now.
Defense. That's about it. Mario says here, you're delusional if you think this is a playoff team. I think that's kind of the way everybody's thinking on that. So I just figured I'd post it. Bill F says, what a day, huh?
for everybody else but us.
Ariel C says, I don't think that Lou cares about being fired. He'll retire after this season and ride off into the sunset. Behind him is us up in flames.
Here's what I don't want. I don't want a transition from Lou Lamoriello to Fredo Lamoriello. That's the one thing I don't want to see. I mean, they should storm the Bastille if Fredo Lamoriello becomes the next general manager.
Oh, yeah,
I've heard really good things about him.
I hope
No, I'm just trying to get on your nerves. I haven't heard anything about him.
Fredo.
I have heard nothing about him. I heard he's like Hunter Biden.
Oh my God!
Jesus, a total liability is what you're telling me. Bill F says Grumpy was right. Lou will do nothing.
He never does anything.
I'll show you the good ones, you two. SP said, if we trade away our 2023 first round picks, I'm taken to the street. Now, what is the only scenario that you would trade a 2023 first round pick?
Zero,
because if I was going to trade a first rounder, I would do 2024. So 0.
I'm not trading any first round picks anymore. There is no excuse to say, hey, we're this close. There is no excuse. Nothing could make me trade our 2023 first round pick.
There'd have to be a sweetheart deal there for you where somebody's going to give you an unbelievable break and they're going to give you somebody who's pennies on a dollar. It's really going to move the team forward, but it's not. No,
it doesn't exist. It was DeBrincat, and they didn't want our pick. They wanted Ottawa's pick.
Yeah.
Nam C said, man, you guys seem to be in pain. Sorry. You said if you were the GM, what would you do? Do something, anything. I can only imagine how the Columbus fans feel in there as they just go ahead and pull up. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau got to be happy about it. Dan L says here, I love the quality of this podcast. You guys are spot on. Thanks.
I love
Dan.
that baby.
Appreciate that.
That baby is just the coolest ever.
Well, the baby is Islandering. He's doing the Islander fan impression right now. He's just like
the face plant. The face
That's
plant.
Right. He's like, he hears what the Islanders do. Bang.
Tyler C said, dare we go after Duchesne again?
Why?
Dare we go after a guy like Matt Duchesne? He doesn't move the needle in the right direction for me.
No. We need no.
But they're also, I mean, they're not selling him. Why would they sell him? They just re-signed his line mate. I mean, where are people getting these ideas from?
Desperate times require desperate
thoughts.
Yeah.
Right.
People are scrambling, Phil. There's not enough time to do the research on all these. Dan L said, Grumpy, your sarcasm is cracking me up. All you can do is just
I'm just here for the Islander fans. I know they're feeling unhappy.
Yeah. I was about to say, we didn't go berserk today, like probably people would have expected us to. Austin R says here, should we burn the whole thing to the ground? I think we're at the point or close to it.
Barzell. That's the final shoe to drop. If he says, I'm just taking a 1-year qualifying offer, boom, you move him. You have to. You cannot have a return to John Tavares land. Can't have it. I know Lou says he likes to wait because he's got time. No. You got to be proactive at that. Proactive. And then everybody goes. Everybody. Back up the truck. Load them all in. Send them away.
Matt Barzal for JT Miller. The trade is 1-for-1.
Oh, my God.
Imagine reading that tomorrow. Imagine.
I would honestly, I'd pick up a new fucking hobby. I'd quit the podcast and say, until that son of a bitch is drug out by his heels, we're not going live again. Unfreaking real.
We felt, I mean, this is how the press conference would go. We felt we wanted someone with a little bit more size, a little bit more tenacity, someone who brings a veteran presence, someone who's going to commit to Long Island long term. It's always been Matt's dream to play back home in Vancouver in front of family and friends. We feel that we needed to make a commitment to him and a commitment to our future. And we think that JT Miller is that player who's going to come in here and he's going to be a valuable asset for the next 9 years, this year plus 8 more. And that's why we made this hockey trade. You can't see that? I mean, you could see
I could see it, especially when you start putting the Lou Lamoriello accent on, and then I kind of, oh my God.
But Lou, aren't you concerned about JT Miller's age? No, he's an elite athlete. His body has held up well in these conditions, similar to Chara and Green. We feel very confident and very satisfied. Everyone's happy with this deal. 8 years, $8.75 million.
You know what? I honestly think there'd be a revolt in the fan base.
No, because you'd have like you'd have like 40% of them who would just simply go to their hockey DB profiles and be like, well, great. He had 99 points. Barzell only had 62. This guy is 50% better than Barzell.
He's never scored over 80-something points. This is a fantastic move for us.
I'm telling you, you legitimately would have 4 in 10 Islander fans believing that this is a fantastic trade. Legitimately. Because you have people who just look at points.
Ugh.
When was the last time we had a 99-point player?
1980 something. No, actually 1990 something.
Although I think JT Miller's from Ohio, so maybe he goes to Columbus.
Oh, even better.
Jesus Christ. I'll be honest. That was gold. That was gold, Phil. Look at him. He gets branded as melatonin, or what do they blame? Or what do they brand Phil as that puts people to sleep, Grump?
I don't know. Something that makes people go to
Ambien,
sleep.
The human Ambien.
Ambien, that's right.
I'm not that boring. Come on.
No, not at all.
And actually, Phil, well, no, he's pretty boring. But no, he's not that boring when you talk to him off air. I only nodded out twice. So
your nightmare saying, at least you're not a Flames fan.
I'd rather be the Flames.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be fine.
Losing Gaudreau, when you still look at the team that you have, you still say, okay, it's not a plus that we lost Gaudreau, but we're still in okay shape.
We still got Matt Tkachuk.
Do they? I mean, what if he signs his QO?
Then
you have to trade him.
I think he'll sign back.
He should.
He'll sign back.
He should. I think it's a good situation.
Yeah.
Maybe Monahan returns to form. I don't know.
Ugh.
With his new hips.
Ugh. No, he's done.
He's probably done. I know. Which is a shame. I mean, he's only 27, and he was a point per game guy like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Hip injuries. Nobody comes back from those hip injuries.
Right?
Nobody.
Yeah. It's tough.
Austin Roberts says here, Grump for general manager. Tyler C said William DeFore and Ratu. Yes, they'll be in Bridgeport next year. Yola says here, Patrick Laine going back to Winnipeg, perhaps.
I don't know. Is he going back to Winnipeg?
Is it with a question mark?
I think he hated Winnipeg.
No, he got bullied by like Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele. He's not going back to Winnipeg.
Did he really? He got bullied?
Yeah, that's what happened.
That's why
I think they ended up apologizing to him, but they bullied him. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, Wheeler, I know they want to move Wheeler.
Well, I mean, I don't think they have clarity on Dubois yet.
I think Wheeler should be our next number 2 center.
Why? Because he's 35?
Yeah.
What about a first-round pick for Dubois?
I do that in a heartbeat.
Probably, right? That's that rare situation where you do it. Team him up with Barzell.
Oh, Luke Dubois is young too. I do that.
He's young. He's a year younger than Barzell.
Yeah, I just don't think he's that great a skater.
Hold on, you wouldn't give up your 2023 first round pick for Pierre-Luc Dubois?
I think you would.
I'd do it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even let I wouldn't give him a chance to breathe. I said yes.
How old is he? 23.
Let's make that deal happen.
Go ahead, TJ. Will look it up while he's looking up.
What are the reasons why you would say no, Grump?
I didn't say I would say no.
What would give you a second even to pause?
The only reason to say no is if you're Chicago and you think you're getting Bedard.
He's 24.
He's 24.
He must have recently turned 24, though.
He's not a great skater, though, is he? He's okay.
He's pretty good. He's a pretty good skater. He's fine. He's a pretty dominant two-way forward.
Okay, he wouldn't come here. He'd say no.
Where else would he go?
He said, "I'll retire rather than play for the Islanders."
I don't need to collect a paycheck.
Well, we know he doesn't like Columbus, so that there's a start already.
That's true.
He doesn't like Columbus. Montreal just loaded up on a bunch of young centers, so it's not like he's going to go back there. The Rangers don't really have cap room now that they did the whole Trocheck thing. I don't know. I think we're onto something here.
Okay. Yeah. There is. They do say they want to move him.
Bill F says the F minus does exist, Grumpy. Bill is verifying.
Minus. Yeah.
SP said, I was ecstatic when they took Atu Ratu, the steal of the draft. But will he be a star, in quotations? He wasn't even projected to be a star when he was projected to go in the first. Nothing wrong with, a second-line guy, second-line projection. Even if you're getting a second-line forward and a second-line center out of that, I think you can't be upset as a fan. I'm still elated with that. And a solid second-line guy would, I think, if he projects to be something like that, I'd be elated with that.
Honestly, I look at his skill set and I say he's better than Anders Lee. He's better than Oliver Wahlstrom. He's certainly better than Palmieri and Bailey. And I'm going to say he's not better than Nelson because Nelson plays that center role where I think Ratu would come as a wing. But I mean, the kid hustles, which is you love to see, right? And he's got a great shot, and he's a pretty good stick handler too. Now, all right, admittedly, limited times that I've seen him, but he was really impressive. And I'm going to tell you what, I like the McLean kid as well.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what's interesting? I thought they were going to sign him. It doesn't look like they're giving him a deal. I would give him a deal.
To me, he was really impressive.
He was the best skater on that team.
Yes.
By far. He's an incredible skater.
I mean, and he
misses the net a lot, but he's really good.
Tell me he's not a fourth line player, an energy guy all the way. Again, it's like, why sign Clutterbuck, Martin, Cizikas when you have a young guy like that who's going to skate through the boards for you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the fourth line should be for. The identity line. What's our identity? Losing? I mean, Geritol, what's the identity of his team right now? I don't know.
Yeah. I think to answer that question, you could hope that Ratu becomes a star. It's not like you draft a Braden Point in the third round and you know when he's 19 years old, oh, this player is going to be a star. I think generally speaking, there's upside there. And yeah, one day he can be, like we've seen with many players who have fallen. I mean, Andre Palat, he's not a star, but a 7th round pick who became a really good first liner.
Yeah.
Can Ratu reach that kind of level of being a Palat? Perhaps.
I liked what I saw of him. I did.
I feel like his skating is okay, but his skating could still use room for improvement.
He's gotten better apparently since he was drafted. I didn't think he was a bad skater. Like, to me, I look at the situation he had last year. He got moved from one team to another team in Europe and then took off. And then they got eliminated from the playoffs. He gets off the boat. A week and a half later, he's in a bit of a mini training camp in between the regular season and the playoffs. He assumes a second center role on a playoff team in a completely different league on a different rink size because Otto Koivula gets injured and he gets thrown into the top 6. He sets up the first overtime winner. He scores the second overtime winner, sending him to the second round. He puts up a couple more points in the next round. I mean, what more could you possibly have asked for a 19-year-old in that situation? He looked like the most competent player among a team that had professionals who had hundreds of NHL games under their belt. I was very encouraged by what I saw.
What he could have done a little bit better, he could have Galulied Anders Lee in early preseason training camp and dump his ass on long-term injury for the extent of the rest of that contract.
Grump, Goon wants to know, do real men cry, Grump?
They do.
You know, maybe you were hoping that they got Pavel Zacha today so he could take Lee out again, huh?
Why not?
Oh, man, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That was the knee contact with Zacha, right?
It wasn't even he just like fell on him. It was just lazy Zacha.
Got a comment here. T Money says, I knew this was going to happen to the Islanders. It's karma for how they shit on Josh Hosang. Call it the curse of Hosang.
I wonder if we're going to see players get Hosanged again, or if that's going to be a term that we have to just give out with Barry, how he Hosanged players.
No, hopefully it's just a Barry thing. Bed and Blanket says here, Wahlstrom was completely underwhelming this past season. What do we think the realistic ability is for Oliver Wahlstrom to step in and perform at a level that we expect? You know, if you're talking to put a point total on it, we're talking 45 to 50 points. What do you think the likelihood of something like that occurring is for this year for him?
For me, I think the reason why he was underwhelming is because of Barry. I put Barry as the number one reason why he didn't progress last year. I think he'll be better under Lambert. I think he could maybe put up 40 points.
I think his point production is predicated on whether or not he plays
on power play
1. Yeah.
And he should be on power play 1. Absolutely should be.
Who are you taking out? It was good. It was good last year when they took Wahlstrom off of it. They went with, again, just to remind you, they went with Barzell, where Wahlstrom hangs out by the left dot.
Yeah, I don't like
He was operating from there. They had Nelson on the right dot as a one-timer.
No.
They had Lee down low.
No.
They had Dobson as the quarterback. And then they had Pajot in the bumper.
I'm okay with Pajot. and I want Wallstrom and Barzell's spot. I want who was the other guy who was on there? I just want
they had Nelson on the right. They had Barzal on the left. They had Lee net front, Pajot in the bumper. You're probably not going to have a better option for the bumper than Pajot, and he gets you possession.
Yeah, I just maybe I just say get rid of Lee off of there too. I just hate him so much.
But he's not going to play in Lee's spot though, unless you decide that you're going to
put Nelson down in front.
He's not a great net front guy.
Maybe he'll get hit by a puck and get taken out of the lineup too. So 2 birds with 1 stone.
The best thing I think we can hope for with a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom is and I've said this before, I mean, best case scenario for him is he's a guy who needs a carrot instead of the whip. And Barry used the whip on all that he just does. He uses the whip on a young guy, doesn't use the carrots on the young guys. And maybe it caused him to get in his head. Again, it could be the showing signs of a young professional still learning how to thicken up his skin. I mean, that's the best case scenario. He needs to improve his skating ability. He needs to improve, playoff puck. But, I mean, best case scenario, he just had a mental issue with Barry.
Barry sucks. He's
glad you sent it to that one, Grump.
He's gone. Thank
Mark
God
A said, why aren't we desirable as a franchise?
What's the most, when you look at New York Islanders, what jumps out is, hey man, I got to play there. Is it playing with certain players? Nope. Is it winning? Nope. Is it the greatest place in the world to live? Nope. What is it?
Why don't you talk about that? You had mentioned something to me yesterday, Grump.
I think that Islander fans overrate how great it is to live on Long Island. And this is someone who came from Long Island. I just think there are other more desirable places to live. I mean, you think about the taxes you have to pay.
I don't think the player making $70 million necessarily thinks about the property tax. I mean, that's an ordinary problem, but I think it's the geography. I've always said that if Long Island was situated on top of Manhattan as opposed to below it, it's just impossible to get out of there. There's like 3 highways and they're always clogged up and traffic is miserable. And unless you like Montauk and fishing and nature and things like that, there's really nothing to do. It's boring. It's pretty boring. To get out is impossible. If there was ever a national disaster, everyone on Long Island would probably be flooded and dead. I don't know. I moved from Long Island to Toronto. Toronto's like
Phil thinks of it very logically. Why would it be low on the list?
Natural disaster.
Natural disaster.
Natural disasters. Maybe they all heard about Hurricane Sandy and how it decimated Long Island and they don't want to be there. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. I ask, it's not what makes it, why is it not desirable? Tell me why it is desirable. I guess that's the question I would ask.
Sean Davis says,
now they do have great pizza there.
They can't tell me why we couldn't come up with a package deal for DeBrincat or Max Pacioretty, who is dumped for peanuts. It's unreal.
Because our GM he doesn't know what to do. He's finished.
No, I could tell you about DeBrincat. DeBrincat, we didn't have a top 10 pick. They were hunting for a top 10 pick, and that's what they got. Pacioretty is just baffling. Oh.
Again, that would have been a plan B. Here's the thing. When you heard that he was on the market, the neurons should be firing, saying, hey, let's make that deal.
They tweeted it out in the morning, and I said, this is an unbelievable plan. Go get Pacioretty. It's going to cost you nothing. I didn't think it would literally cost nothing, but it literally cost nothing.
Yeah, think about it, right? Nothing.
I thought of another plan B.
Oh.
Offer sheet. I mean, he's never going to do this. Offer sheet a cap strap team.
That's not happening.
Rasmus Sandin, $4.1 million offer sheet. Capo Caco, $4.1 million offer sheet.
Oh, $4.1 million. That's under the first round draft.
Yeah, it's a second round pick.
That'd be a second round pick. You'd have to Here's the thing: a second round pick you'd have to forfeit still is it's a pretty penny. 2.1 is what you can avoid any sort of compensation on, right? Or that's like a third round pick or something.
Like a third round pick. I don't know. You wouldn't take Rasmus Sandin for a second round pick. You'd do it in a heartbeat.
It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
We're trying to will it to happen. That's what we're trying to speak things into existence here.
Now, do you remember when Mitch Marner was a restricted free agent and Toronto was right up against the salary cap? I thought that if you were going to give them an offer sheet, you give them like a big offer sheet there and just make them have to do financial flips in the first week to
They
try to
would have
match
taken the
that.
4 first-round picks, though, I think.
Go ahead. We don't use them anyway. What the hell's the difference?
But then you have Mitch Marner for $12.5 million. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, boy. Tell me you wouldn't take Mitch Marner on this team. How about
$12.5 million?
Well,
I don't know. We don't have Austin Matthews, so probably not. No.
now was that before Lee or after Lee was signed?
This was after Lee was already signed.
Ugh.
It was never going to happen. Why would Mitch Marner sign with the Islanders?
Oh, he wouldn't. I'm just saying.
He would sign an offer sheet with Edmonton to play with McDavid if they wanted to make that a thing.
Talking about the desirability, BD Gallup there says, spoke with NHL source on Goudreau choosing Columbus over the Islanders. He said it's a great place to live. John Davison does a great job of selling the vision. Long Island, not a great destination location. And vision, a chance of truly contending over those 7 years, a.k.a. Lou can't sell the vision. Next 7 years not being bought into.
That's true. I mean, honestly, with this
So he's
group,
looking more towards now and the future. So,
I mean, if you look at this group right now, what are you thinking? How many years realistically, honestly, do you think this group has of being together?
3.
2? You saying 3?
max.
3 max. 3 maximum. I'm going with the max 3.
So everyone's going to be in their mid-30s by then? I mean, at some point in time, you got to say enough's enough. I just can't see it. I just can't.
Listen, if you wanted to pick the best destination on the basis of what it's going to look like over the course of the next 7 years, I can't imagine why it wouldn't have been the Devils.
Detroit, baby.
Because they play in New Jersey and they suck.
Detroit, baby.
Yeah, they suck now, but look at the young talent that they have.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't care what they have. They don't win. They never win. They suck. They don't. I don't care
They
what
need Lou back. Maybe they need Lou back so that they could start winning again.
Well, that'll be the end of those young guys. That's for certain.
Right? He could trade Jack Hughes for JT Miller.
Yeah, he would do that. Absolutely. I don't know. I know you love the Devils. It seems like the Devils have a lot of pieces, but none of them fit together. They're like a Picasso painting that's everything just kind of just doesn't fit. I mean, Hughes is okay. Again, another guy, I think they just play for the Devils like they don't even exist to me, honestly. And I know he had a good year this year, right? Hughes was pretty good this year.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, but I just look at him like, yeah, Jack Hughes, whatever. I mean, is he a guy who's going to change your team? I don't think so.
Hughes?
Yeah.
He was better than point per game this year.
Okay, and where were the Devils again?
He only played 49 games.
Okay, so where were the Devils again? Where'd they finish up?
They were in 7th place, 8th place. Yeah, they were bad. They were bad. No question about it.
They're bad every year.
It's funny.
They're bad.
Right, with them, and this is why I wouldn't get ahead of myself if I was Detroit yet, just because of these additions. New Jersey has done things each of the past 3 summers until this summer, and I'm sure they're going to deploy this cap space in some ridiculous way. But if you look at like the past 3 summers, they did that thing where they did Subban, Wayne Simmons, traded a bunch of picks for Nikita Gusev. They had some other signing in there, and it all flopped. And then the next year they went out and they did something similar. I can't even remember what it was. And then last year they brought in Dougie Hamilton. They brought in Thomas Tatar. They brought in, maybe Andreas Janssen didn't play the full season the season before, but they had a bunch of new talent and they spent a bunch of big money and it just completely flopped again. So a cautionary tale to teams like Ottawa and Detroit, just because you bring in 5 or 6 new pieces that appear to be super attractive, it doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work, but it certainly is a lot of fun.
The Devils are like the Cleveland Browns, I think.
That's something. New York Ranger Mike says Chris Drury is better than Lou Lamoriello since Lou has been general manager of the Islanders. Just look at the Rangers now compared to the Islanders. Drury was assistant general manager when JG was general manager.
I don't think that Drury was great today. And
This is awful today. He has done nothing other than having a good trade deadline, which in hindsight, he paid way too much for Andrew Kopp as a rental.
Yes. I mean, I like Andrew Kopp. I thought Andrew Kopp was the epitome of an Islander player.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. He didn't even want to come here. So but I'm just, for me, I mean, was it Gorton and Davidson, right? They were both built the Ranger team.
Gordon and Davidson.
Yeah.
They were like 50-50. They had some bangers, like Zibanejad for Brassard in a second round, or Zibanejad in a second round pick for Brassard and a 6th round pick or something.
Yeah,
fantastic deal. But then they had the McDonough-Miller trade was a disaster.
Yeah.
The Trouba trade is a disaster, not even because of the trade, just because of the contract, and they can't get rid of it.
Yep.
So they've stepped on some landmines in the process. But Drury, what's he really done? He took that team. He's removed Buchnevich. He's not the reason why Shesterkin was so good. Ryan Reeves, Barclay Goodrow, that contract's killing them now. They have no ability to add anyone.
But he did play on a Little League World Series championship team, as I recall.
Is that really true about Drury?
I believe it is.
Oh, look at it. Oscar Gash, I'm so ashamed to be a Flyers fan. I'm tired of the pain. What's worse, let's say 5 years down from the road? Who do you think's going to be in worse shape, the Flyers or the Islanders at that point? Obviously, a lot can change. But Flyers are worse off still?
I hate the Flyers, so I'm going to say the Flyers. Sorry, Oscar. I hate the Flyers. They just
seem cursed lately. I don't know. I think there's I think there's terrible karma in buying out a good player who survived cancer. I don't know. I just think.
Oh, yeah.
I just think buying out Lindblom, who's a fan favorite, the guy who survived Ewing sarcoma, he's not even bad. It's only 1 year at $3 million, and he's 24 years old or something like that. He's got upside. And what did you do? What did you do with the money? You signed Delorier, who's awful. You used the savings to sign a 4th-line grinder instead of a kid with cancer. I mean,
the culture change for John Tortorella.
It's gonna be the curse of Lindblom. They're gonna have 50 years of famine because they bought out a kid with cancer.
A lot more Philly fan fights, Grumpy, in the Phillies.
You cannot go wrong with that, honestly. Philly fan fights. Last year I picked them to make the playoffs, if you can believe that. That was my biggest mistake of the offseason, honestly. I thought they'd make the playoffs. Didn't they trade for Ruotsalainen last year too?
They traded the 13th pick or the 14th pick and a 2nd rounder and Robert Haig for Ristolainen. And Ristolainen was awful.
Yeah.
And then they extended him 5 years, $5 million.
So it was last year.
It was last year. Okay. This year they did D'Angelo for a 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th, which I don't mind that trade. I just don't know who he's going to play with. I don't think him and Provorov are going to be a good pair. I think D'Angelo, a lot of his deficiencies were covered over because Jacob Slavin is that good.
Yeah,
which is why Slavin Burns is going to be such a scary pair because Burns doesn't have to play defense, and he's so offensively
good because
talented.
He never does anyway.
He never does anyways, exactly. But he throws the body. But I think D'Angelo is going to be exposed like he was exposed at the beginning of 2 seasons ago with the Rangers before he got punched in the face, where he was just awful. He's able to generate a lot more when he has a possession guy like Slavin. I don't see how that's going to work out for them. They've traded so much draft capital needlessly. They've given out horrendous contracts like the one to Kevin Hayes. I don't know.
But that doesn't bother me because I hate them so much.
Yeah, exactly.
D-Cut saying TJ would blame Barry Trotz after Lou traded Barzal for JT Miller. No. And I'm wearing sunglasses to avoid the glare off of TJ's head. Well, a follically challenge, you have to do that. JK, who knows Lou from the landline. He says, Phil, there's only one Lou from the landline. Winky face. Andrew L says here, gotta give credit to Phil. I thought Lou was on the podcast for a second.
He does that good. I tell you, he does that good.
Don't Smoke Crack says the best part of today was Grumpy with a little frowny face, though. So SP want to let you know, by the way, Grump, I saw Thor. I love and Blunder. What a horrific mess of a movie.
True.
Noah Miller says here, when Ratu was projected 10A, people thought he was a franchise changer. That changed quick, but he was definitely projected as a star.
He's showing here's his thing. He can definitely play in the NHL. Let me just put it to you that way.
And that's the most valuable part of it, and be a contributor.
And not a grinder. He's not going to be a guy that you see on the 4th line.
Michael M wants to know, what package would it take to ship Bailey to the other side of the world, aka the Coyotes?
You just have a good travel agent. Just send him on his way.
What's the point now? What's the point?
What's the point? There's no point. Exactly.
Yeah, I was about to say we don't have a need to move him now.
Why not just move him anyway?
You can't move him. You saw what they had to give up for Nemeth? 2 second-round picks. For a guy who you could bury and only have a $1.37 million penalty.
Why would they not bury him then? I would.
They have no cap space. They have none. The Rangers have no cap space. They have like $2 million left in space, and they could barely sign Kakko.
Oh, I'm not talking about the Rangers. I'm just saying Barry Bailey.
Oh, Barry Bailey. Oh, send him to the AHL. Interesting.
Yeah.
You don't want him to hit his 1,000th game, Grump? Well,
I know Grumpy does. Grumpy's excited for it.
Once he hits 1,000 games and we continue being
Josh Bailey night, can't you just see the pregame show
up in the rafters, Grump?
Oh my God!
I want them to give Latu 12 when he leaves.
Tell me Dwayne Sutter was not a better player than Josh Bailey.
You know what was the most disrespectful thing of the day? I tweeted this out. When Detroit announced the Zarnik signing, they used a picture of him in his Kraken jersey. That's how little respect these teams have for us right now.
Oh.
He played for the Kraken for about 4 minutes. They
That's
didn't
right.
even have
Right
the courtesy. They didn't even have the courtesy to use the Zarnik Islander picture.
I'm like, I saw when you retweeted that. I was like, why do you retweet that? I didn't even pick up on that. Holy crap.
Yzerman has so little respect for us that he's not even acknowledging us. We don't exist to him.
I don't think he does it. They just have somebody.
I know, it's a social media intern. He probably just went to Google and found a picture of him in a Kraken jersey.
My God.
That's true.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm going to show it to you, dear Crump. My God. That shit. Oh, give me a sec.
Played for us for 2 years. Nope. We got him from the Kraken. The Islanders don't exist.
Oh my God, that's nuts.
Taking Andersley's number. He had Andersley's number there, huh?
I didn't know that.
I know Grumpy would want to replace him with Andersley.
Absolutely. I think that Jarnik is better than Andersley now. Andersley he brings nothing to the table. Nothing. Here's the thing. I hated how he dogged it all year. I mean, a dog, an absolute, a dog all freaking year long, right? All year. Lazy, not skating back, looked like Nicoletti skating back on defense. All of a sudden, trade line's coming up. Hey, we got to keep the cul-de-sac together. Let's go out there, boys. Let's pick it up. He starts scoring goals, right? I mean, I think he scored half his goals in a 2.5 week period of time. Then all of a sudden, nobody gets moved. We believe in this group. And then all of a sudden, Phil, you should do that actually better than I do. That's a total deadpan thing doing the Lou. So, right. And then all of a sudden, he goes right back into his slumber. To me, I'm sorry. Strip him of his captaincy. I don't give a shit. I want that guy gone.
He's going to have 34 goals this year. Write it down.
Yeah.
Write that down.
He wants to know, how many points do you think Romanov can score for us?
17.
Oh, I was going to say playing with Dobson, 25. He's going to get some Josh Bailey.
Okay.
Assists.
Yeah, he might get some Josh
Bailey assists on that. I do.
Okay.
I like 25. 25.
25. 4 goals, 21 assists.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I think he's going to be better than people give him credit for.
I agree.
Greg C. wants to know, what's next for the Islanders? Is Lou going to simulate offensive power? I think Tarasenko could be the guy.
Nope.
And Frank also says maybe we make a trade for Tarasenko.
Nope.
I don't think
I'm just not sure. I don't think he's going. He's not leaving St. Louis. Yeah,
they can't. He's irreplaceable. If you
Just
want to
like
win a cup, you don't. I mean, that Robert Thomas extension, that's a pretty big balls extension by St. Louis.
You're not kidding. 8 years.
8 years, $8.1 million. They're betting that he's at least as good as he was last year. That's what they're betting on.
Yeah. Well, he's young yet. What's he, 25?
23.
Okay.
He was better than point per game. Better than point per game. He was great in the playoffs.
Phil, do you remember how long I was arguing with TJ for how many years when I said you want to sign these guys to long-term extensions when they're young and buy out, free agency years? And he's finally come around to that. Where you remember how he was so nasty. You remember how nasty he was to me when I would say that? So stupid. You don't know how the salary cap works. You don't know any of that works. Now he's espousing my theories.
God almighty. Dan NY says, I hate how this is the narrative. I most likely had nothing to do with Long Island. It most likely had nothing to do with Long Island being desirable. It's not just like Jean-Gabriel Pajot is from
Johnny Gaudreau.
Johnny Gaudreau is from, how do you pronounce it? Soset, Grump?
Syosset.
Soset? It's Syosset.
I've never read
You got to teach him how to speak Long Island.
Damn.
Oh. Sorry, I don't know how to
pronounce the freaking letters. SY is not so.
That's why we know he's never been.
Maybe it was a silent Y, Grump.
Have you never been to an Islander game at the Coliseum back in the day? When
Nope.
Never.
Nope.
And now, welcome your Syosset Ford Ice Girls. No, never.
Oh man, I used to love the Ice Girls. Why did they get rid of the Ice Girls?
Did they get rid of the Ice Girls? The Syosset Ford Ice Girls are gone.
Yeah, they've been gone.
They got rid of the Ice Girls because it was who the hell knows what reason. All I know is the most exciting thing in an Islander game is having that girls out there and scoop that damn ice. They put
them and Goldilocks sexually, sexual or inappropriate misconduct there in the parking lot. Apparently,
I don't know. I loved watching the Ice Girls. It was the most exciting thing that happened to Islander games ever. Bored with the play? Hey, just hope for a timeout. And they send them out there with their shovels and their little tight pants and their little crop top shirts.
JK says, let's face it, guys, free agents have to get over decades of losing teams. Views of the Marriott parking lot, ownership issues, arena issues, etc. 1 year of UBS and 2 semifinals don't negate the above. There's a huge stigma for free agents to come here or free agents to overcome. You might be on to something there, too.
Here's what I think. Maybe Johnny Gaudreau called Matt Barzal and he said, hey, I'm thinking about going there. What do you think? He's like, dude, I'm out of here in 2 years. Do whatever the hell you want, but I won't be with me. That's what I mean, the players talk. Let me tell you something. If you think that Matt Barzal is pumping up what the Islanders have done, you're crazy. He's talking to all his buddies like, man, this place is a freaking dumpster fire. I got that old bastard behind me on the bench, benches me if the puck bounces off my stick. And you got these lazy old bastards out there, can't even stand on the ice list. They're hanging on to the wall, waiting for their mommy to give them a juice cup. And he's going to bench me? Come on.
D-Cut says, nobody wants to come play with Barzal. He's not an attraction.
Oh, man, D-Cut.
I think they don't utilize him right. D-Cut is the issue. They hadn't utilized him right under the Trot system. The Wicked 50 Cow said, what's going on, everyone? I'm just so disappointed, disgruntled, and disillusioned with the direction of the team. I just don't know what they do to improve either in the short or long term.
You can't improve in the short term. And until you stop doing the ridiculous practices of signing guys in their 30s to long-term deals, you're just going to hurt yourself in the long run.
Yeah. The only way you start improving in the long term is if our team we don't make any other adjustments. Again, this is only day one of free agency, so we could still see maybe the Islanders do something. Very unlikely, though. If we're not in the playoff picture, sell every asset we have and acquire draft capital. That's the only way we can improve over the long term. This year's a strong draft class. Maybe you go ahead and hit on a few picks. Different Mind says, how do you feel if Barzal is extended tomorrow?
When was the last time Lou Lamoriello was that proactive?
Ryan Pulock.
Were they really? When was that done?
It was a year before.
He did it a year ahead.
Mm-hmm.
How's that working out for us? Now he's going to be gun shy.
It's a good signing. Come on.
It's a good signing. No, he did it a year ahead.
He's okay.
I was impressed with that one. I didn't think it would get done. I kept tweeting, extend Pulock. Every day of the summer, I said, extend Pulock. And then everyone blows up my mentions. Oh, Phil, they extended Pulock. I'm like, okay, great. Fantastic.
Well, Lou Lamoriello happened to see you tweeting at him, and he said, damn it, I need to do this. D-Cut says, Grump, are you sure this is what your super sperm produced?
You wanted to put that up there, TJ? Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
Here's the thing. The warden is Polish. So TJ is, half Polish. So he's like half dumb. Let's be honest. So, that's kind of what I'm having to deal with. Sometimes I forget because, my super intelligence, I talk to him and I keep on forgetting that he's half Polish. And I expect more out of him, but I shouldn't.
Good gracious.
It's my fault, actually.
It's your fault. That's right, Grumpy. But man, we're here at the end of the show today. What do you guys want? What do you want to say first, Phil, before we start wrapping things up?
It could have been worse. It could have been a heck of a lot worse. Ryan Strome went to Anaheim. You could go to sleep knowing that Ryan Strome is not going to be an Islander. There's your silver lining.
You know, that's actually a good point. It's never as bad as you think, and it's never as good as you think. And the positive, the silver lining of today is we didn't extend or sign any bad contracts yet. There still is time where we can make that mistake the remainder of free agency. So we could still reserve judgment on that. But Grumpy, what do you want to say before we wrap things up?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens and even those who don't, from TJ, myself, and Phil.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, we got a few more comments here. Good show. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. SP said, you guys ever seen the movie Draft Day? Remember how furious the coach was when the general manager traded away 3 first-rounders? He said, no future.
Kevin Costner had his head up his ass in that movie. But he did get Jennifer Garner. So, you know, there's a plus. And like I said, that was like the hot mom thing that he used to do in the drafting.
Recording the Street says Grumpy is TJ's dad. Yes. We did the reveal, I think, last Wednesday. About a week from now. A week ago. But he said that's the Islanders franchise in a quote. It could have been worse. Good night, fellas.
Okay. You know what? I said before the show, I talked with Phil, and I'm going to have to give Phil credit. Phil and TJ, I said, I want to come up with something to incorporate the Islanders and being an Islander fan. And this is it.
It could have been worse.
The Islander fan logo is, it could have been worse. That could be it.
As we're getting beaten in the downtrodden years, 5-0, it could have been worse. Could have been 6-0.
Yeah.
Oh, man, back to that mentality again. You've got to love it. Brian B says, great show. Thanks there, Brian. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Grumpy and Phil, for coming on, as always. Thank you, guys. Hope you're going to have a great weekend. We'll see you tomorrow on TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. And thank you again, Grumpy and Phil.
TJ, can I say one thing? I mean, why are you talking with your eyes closed? Do you think you're blind?
Yes,
like,
I am.
I'm Stevie Wonder. You look like freaking Stevie Wonder on the mic.
Wicked Cal said, have you guys seen what David Pagoda, Pagnotta, is it Pagnotta or Pagoda?
It's Pagnotta.
Pagnotta.
Yeah, he just had a morbid tweet about the Islanders. It's lose last year. They failed to deliver. Where does the franchise go? Something like that. But he doesn't know anything, so I don't know.
We originally blocked by them in the 4th period when we first started things out. I couldn't even tell you. I'd never interacted with him before in my life. And
you're better off without it.
Yeah, so we're no longer blocked by them, but yeah, it's kind of towards the tail end.
They put him on NHL Network, and I mean, you know, he says some things. I don't know if they ever turn out to be right, but he doesn't seem like he knows what he thinks he knows. I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm sure he knows more than I do. Well, maybe not, but I don't know anything. So, you know.
Don't Smoke Crack said, put that in a shirt. I'd buy it. Well, Bill says, Phil Grump, what's the best possible game plan from here on out? Do absolutely nothing. Sell at the deadline.
Here was the Pagnotta tweet that just drove me crazy. Nikita Zadorov is mulling over a few options at the moment. Nothing done yet, but a decision could be in the offing.
It's just a whole lot of fucking nothing.
It's nothing. So then I copied it, and then I just replaced it, and I tweeted out, Andre Palat is mulling over a few options at the moment. Nothing done just yet, but a decision could be in the offing. You could substitute any name and write the same bullshit.
It's like you're not saying anything, but you're saying, you know what? It reminds me of a certain website and what
they say. Maybe they're connected.
I don't know. No idea.
Well, hold on. One of them is.
Oh, I don't know.
That's right.
But it's like, if you're going to say something, say it.
All right. Breaking news. Andre Palat, 5-year contract, New Jersey Devils. All right. So the Devils had the Palat contract in the other drawer.
But here's the thing.
So Andre Palat, not an option for the Islanders either.
Good. They're about to find out. Well, I mean, they're going to put him with high-end talent. I don't think a line of Hughes, Bratt, and Palat, they're going to get pushed around.
Well, but Palat is physical, and that's why he kind of fits.
If Palat's a physical guy for you,
he's not but the thing is, like Stamkos, he's he's a bulldog out there. Same thing with Point. Same thing with Kucherov. Kucherov will he'll slash your legs. I mean, those are just nasty, nasty players. He doesn't have that nastiness to him. And Jack Hughes is about 5'4" and weighs about 150 pounds. It'll be interesting. It could work. But 5 years for the Devils, you're going to clog up a top 6 spot with Palat when you're not contending. I don't see how that makes sense.
Here's a question.
Like Tatar, they gave Tatar 2 years. That makes sense.
Yeah.
A good top 6 forward, only 2 years. He's there until he's not there, and then someone else comes in. Palat from 31 to 36. I don't know. All right, good. Enjoy.
You see what Tampa does. How many guys in their mid-30s did they sign back to long-term deals?
Stamkos. Well, no, they did that when he was 27.
Yeah, they don't do it. They don't do it.
They took more of a proactive. Well, they haven't had to worry about it just quite yet. They've had all the guys when they're 30 locked up.
But all 3 of the guys they signed today that they extended, they're going to be 32, 33 when their contracts expire. By then, they're going to have somebody else. They know how to draft too. Man, I tell you what, they're the freaking model for how to build a franchise. They really are. They know what the hell they're doing there. I wish we had somebody out of the Tampa organization running our show.
It'd be nice. I still thought there would be a possibility that the Islanders would make some move. But as I see more and more guys just evaporate off the list, the more and more likely I think it is that we are making no move.
Ugh, man, can you imagine rolling that lineup out on the first day? Ugh.
That's honestly, Palat's gone. I really could have seen us going after guy. Do you see Kadri? Who else? Kadri is a free agent option, or trade via JT Miller.
Palat was, again, like you said, Grumpy. Palat is not the guy who you bring into this situation without a JT Miller.
Yes.
Without someone who's more high end.
As the B guy, yes, not as the A guy.
Yeah,
you need an A guy.
I agree.
You need a George when you got John and Paul. You need a George.
I thought you were about to say George Costanza when you've got a.
Oh my God! Do you even know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about the Beatles.
Okay.
Man, I want to know what the contract's worth. I'm guessing it's $6 million. I don't know. I just have a feeling about it.
I don't know.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Grump and Phil.
My pleasure.